Friday, December the 4th, 2020. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of That's What G Said podcast. Hope everyone's having a nice week as we are rolling along in the NFL all the way up to week 13. We're getting close to the NBA season starting again, December the 11th. We're going to have some preseason games coming up, so a lot happening in the sports world on this episode of That's What G Said podcast. We're going to be talking NBA Lakers with Alex Regla. We're going to go through the Lakers roster, a couple big pieces of news with LeBron extending his contract and Anthony Davis up in for a while. So AD and LeBron are going to be Lakers for a bit. We talk about everything Lakers with Alex. NFL Week 13 with Erik. Over an hour conversation of every single NFL game, point spreads, totals, fantasy implications, injury stuff, who's going to be playing, who to keep an eye on. Stable Duel weekend. Give you the schedule for the weekend, and for me, the focus is going to be at Gulfstream Park on Friday and Saturday. So I've got full card thoughts for Gulfstream on both Friday and Saturday, and then I've got some best bets for Friday Aqueduct, and then talk the stakes races for Saturday Aqueduct. 4 graded stakes races. They're not the biggest fields in the world, but I actually like some horses and think we can beat some favorites there. I have Peter Brady, old buddy from high school, joining me for about a half-hour recap of The Mandalorian. So this is not like some of the other recaps I've done where I just go over the episode quickly. This is a full, in-depth, everything that happened in the episode. Spoiler alert, we go through stuff that happened. We talk about what to look for moving forward. So if you are a fan of The Mandalorian, if you're a Star Wars fan, if you're a fan that's been watching and you're sort of a novice fan, or if you're an expert that knows all the canon, everything in the Star Wars universe, you'll enjoy this conversation because that's how Peter is. So I kind of ask him the questions and he fills in all the blanks for us with everything going on in The Mandalorian Season 2, Episode 5. Finish up with some thoughts on Saved by the Bell, the new reboot, Happiest Season, the Christmas movie on Hulu, and I also have Alex Regla joining me for a half-an-hour recap of All Elite Wrestling. Winter is coming. Huge things that happened on Wednesday night. Sting is back. Sting is in the All Elite Wrestling. We have a new AEW champion, too, with Kenny Omega. So, as expected, folks, we've got basketball, NFL. We've got Stable Duel stuff for the weekend. Friday and Saturday racing, Gulfstream and Aqueduct for both days, All Elite Wrestling recap, Mandalorian recap, and then some thoughts on the new Saved by the Bell and the movie Happiest Season, the Christmas movie on Hulu. I mean, when it takes me a few minutes just to let you know what's on the show, you know it is a packed, loaded episode. A couple quick hit things I wanted to get to before we get into the NBA with Alex. Sarah Fuller, big congratulations to Sarah Fuller, the first woman to ever play college football in a Power 5 conference game. She had the opening kickoff of the second half for Vanderbilt last weekend, so really cool for Sarah Fuller, the first woman to play college football. Any first nowadays are always amazing and incredible, and she's opening some doors there for many girls to come in the future. How about staying in the college football world? Jarrett Patterson. If you haven't heard this name, check out the 2 games that this running back has had back-to-back. On November the 17th, he had 31 carries for 301 yards rushing, 4 touchdowns, 9.7 yards per carry. He comes back on November the 28th with 409 yards rushing, 36 carries, 8 touchdowns, 11.4 yards per carry. He was 18 yards shy of the all-time single game record in college football. Just incredible run that Jarrett Patterson is on right now. Also, just a note for next week and for the next couple months, Shameless coming back, the final season, season 11 of Shameless on Showtime, one of my all-time favorite TV shows. So we will be having weekly recaps of every episode of the final season of Shameless right here on That's What G Said. They will begin next week. Big trade in the NBA. I don't know if it's a big trade, but it's a big name trade. Russell Westbrook and John Wall have been traded. Russell Westbrook to the Wizards, John Wall to the Rockets, and a 2023 John Wall and a 2023 first round pick. So two disgruntled point guards will be flip-flopping spots. And we'll see if either of these guys can stay healthy and help their teams contribute. So new surroundings for Russell Westbrook and for John Wall. Next week, I will also be recapping a documentary that I want you to go watch. It's on Showtime. It's called Belushi, and it's all about the life of John Belushi, who is someone that I have always been infatuated with. I did a project on him when I was in high school. I read the book Wired, which is a very controversial book, and I was very excited to watch the Belushi documentary on someone who Rolling Stone had in 2015 put together a list of every SNL character, every SNL actor, everyone who's been on SNL, and Belushi was ranked number one. The biggest star, the most impactful. So I'm going to talk all about the Belushi documentary next week. So as you see, we're starting to get bringing back a lot more entertainment. Just because I love there's a lot of good TV, a lot of good stuff out there right now. And anytime I can get someone to come on and talk about something with me for a few minutes, or maybe point some of you to a show or a movie or something that I found interesting, I'm always going to be doing that. So something to keep an eye on next week. We'll be talking some Shameless. We'll be talking some of that Belushi documentary. You can watch actually both of those over on Showtime. Alex Regla coming up, talking some Lakers. But first, we're going to talk a little bit about Thrive Fantasy. Thrive Fantasy is a DFS, a daily fantasy app that focuses on prop wagering. So what you do is you select your lineup, picking 10 out of their 20 options for prop. You're going to be picking over or under. They have contests every week, the big ones for the NFL. They are $25 entries with $12,500 in prizes, and you're only going to be playing against 500-600 other people in that big contest. We're not talking about thousands and millions of other entries that you're playing against. You win over $2,700 if you take home first prize there. It pays out the top 130, so it pays out if you have a good week, but you don't get the opportunity to win. You're still going to get some money there. And this is a really cool app because it's more than football. We're talking NFL, NBA, MLB, golf, League of Legends. You can play in head-to-heads. You can play for as little as $1. I think they even have 25-cent contests all the way up to $1,000 contests. You can get involved on Thursday football, Sunday only, Monday night contests for their games. The big one, though, is that $25 entry fee on Sunday, $12,500 in prizes. Promo code GINO. That's the key here. When you use the promo code GINO, anything that you deposit from 20 to 50, it maxes at 50. Promo code GINO, you deposit 50, you're going to get an instant $50 bonus credit right into your account. You turn your 50 right into 100. Promo code GINO, Thrive Fantasy. If you like to bet football, if you like to play fantasy football, if you like to bet props, any of those, you will enjoy this Thrive Fantasy. But don't forget about that promo code GINO. Lakers time. We're going to talk about the Lakers. A roster that looks a lot different than the roster that the Lakers won the title with last year. And some big news with Anthony Davis, with LeBron locking down in LA for a while. Alex Regla joins to talk Los Angeles Lakers, their roster, and what to look forward to in 2021. Oh, recording this on Thursday evening with Alex Regla, our regular Laker expert and who we talk NBA with all the time here on That's What G Said. And I'm glad we actually recorded it right now, Alex, because if it would have been like a day or two earlier, we wouldn't have even had we would have been able to talk all about the roster moves and this different Laker roster. But there are two huge developments in the last couple days. One of them we were all expecting. Anthony Davis, we knew he was going to sign. We're just kind of waiting on what kind of a deal, the length of his deal, what were the terms going to be. But while we're waiting for this, LeBron James doubles down and he extends his contract. So we as Laker fans are feeling pretty warm and fuzzy inside, knowing that for the foreseeable future, we've got LBJ and Anthony Davis locked up.
Yeah, like you said it right there. Like I was not expecting LeBron news. The Anthony Davis news, it was dragging. I was trying to guess like all right, when is this going to happen? He said
Why?
Thanksgiving.
And you start to get negative a little bit. And you're like, there's no way, right? He's not doing anything. Yeah.
I looked around the salary cap for other teams. Like, no, he can't go there. He could have to be back to the Lakers. So I'm just happy that they both decided to come back. And I do find it surprising that Davis did extend, but for the full 5 years. A lot of people were just assuming he would do a 2+1, maybe opt out right when LeBron's ready to opt out, and then kind of determine where he wants to go from there. But he just showed his commitment to this team by signing the full 5 years, which is actually kind of rare for superstars these days.
And LeBron in particular, he himself wasn't ever one that locked himself up for that long. But I think he's looked around and he said, okay, why not? You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to put myself with AD for the next few years. This will be a great opportunity, a great place for me to be. And he looks at this roster now. I tweeted something out earlier, said, let's build Pelinka a damn statue already, Alex, because win or lose this year, this is a guy who brought in LeBron James, who brought in Anthony Davis. And we as Laker fans struggled through the worst Laker years in order to gain assets, and I hate saying assets, in order to gain really talented players that we became attached to, starting with D'Angelo to Brandon Ingram, Julius Randle, Lonzo Ball, Kuz is still here, but Josh Hart was another one that we got, even Zubats, who's played well. We loved these young guys, and he saw right away, hey, you know what? I have to go and get this guy, and I have to put LeBron and Anthony Davis together. And however it was worked out, if it's LeBron pulling the strings and Rich Paul, whatever, Pelinka got it done. He got it done last year. And this roster this year, Alex, is even on paper a better roster than they were last year, which is kind of hard to say for a team that just won the NBA Finals pretty impressively.
Yeah, I kind of like to compare it to like what Andrew Friedman's doing with the Dodgers, who's another, front office person in Los Angeles, both the Dodgers. And I think usually one of his talking points with how his organization likes to build their roster is they have like these check marks they want to check boxes they want to check off. And it's like, can we make this team competitive now? How do we set ourselves up to be competitive in the future? And how do we kind of replenish our youth? Yep. And I think this was the first time Pelinka did all three. And that's a really, really hard thing to do, especially when you're coming off a quick turnaround, when you don't have that much cap space, if any, and you have two superstars already on the team. Like, that's tough to do, and he somehow pulled it off by getting guys like Montrezl Harrell, Dennis Schroeder,
Wes Matthews
at the minimum.
For basically like a fill-in for Danny Green for like 3 or 4 times less the price.
Marcus Gasol at the minimum. Pelinka just, again, he had his Andrew Friedman moment this summer and or offseason, and just he really knocked it out of the park.
And I think I know someone that you love too, and a guy who's not going to be playing 30 minutes out there, but I was very happy to see Jared Dudley back on the bench, because he's the type of player that was missing for a few years with the Lakers, the really good locker room guy that can help everyone. I mean, he kind of feels like he's taken Kuzma under his wing as a project, and he talks about how he watches film with him. He shows him where he needs to go, tells him things, hey, you don't need to say that. He kind of just tries to keep him in line as an older brother type. He's even like some of the quotes that he says that he's got out there are so just like logical and cerebral. He says things like, LeBron's the leader of this team, but LeBron plays 30 minutes, 35 minutes. He's tired after a game. Like, he doesn't have the energy at that point to go up and tell somebody else what they need to hear. I do. And it's so refreshing to find players who just understand who they are and what they bring to a team. I love Jared Dudley, and I'm so glad he's back.
Yeah, every championship team or a team who wants to be competitive needs a player like Jared Dudley on the roster. And it's because those things you just outlined. Like, he's a guy who, he's not going to play 15 to 20 minutes a game. He's not going to do that. But he's going to work hard in practice. He's going to preach what the coaches are trying to get through to players. He's going to take guys under his wing, like you mentioned with Kuz. And that was one of his big talking points when he first signed with the Lakers, was I'm going to take Kuz under my wing. he's going to be the young guy I work with, and he did the same thing in Brooklyn with D'Angelo. I think he did it with Bradley Beal, if I'm not mistaken. Like,
Yeah.
he's gone around to different rosters and has done this role. Like, he's a guy who understands what his job is, and that's why he's lasted so long in the NBA.
When you look at this Lakers team now, from top to bottom, the way they're stacked up, you had a key point too, is they got younger, which is nice because I think this year we might see a little bit different version of the Lakers than we saw last year, in that last year this was a brand new team coming together. They had not done anything together. They felt like they wanted to prove that LeBron had something left in the tank, that Anthony Davis could win, and they won. This year, with the quick turnaround, the fact that the Lakers did not have a ton of time between when they finished and when they're starting up, I get the feeling that we might have more games where maybe on the night on a back-to-back, we're not getting LeBron or Anthony Davis, or maybe even their minutes are kind of tapered down a little bit in the regular season, and maybe we amp them back up in the playoffs. And what's nice, why I think that, Alex, and I think you kind of feel the same way, is you go out and get guys like a Montrez and a Schroeder who can play heavy minutes for you if you need and still produce. These guys were the top two bench producers last year, and I mean, they're just going to fit in so well with this team's versatility.
Yeah, I think that had to play into the calculus, the fact of the quick turnaround, and they literally just came off a long finals run, and LeBron's obviously getting older, so for them to go out and get two guys who, like you said, like Montrezl Harrell won Sixth Man of the Year, and who is runner-up? Dennis Schroeder. So they were able to get both of those guys. And I wouldn't be surprised if, like you said, on back-to-back nights, or maybe suddenly LeBron has like a mysterious groin injury.
Yeah.
And needs to rest against Chicago or something.
Exactly.
You have two guys, and that was something they didn't have last season, right? Like, it was LeBron and AD, and you had no idea who that third guy was going to be on a night-to-night basis. And most of the nights, it was their defense, right? It wasn't really their scoring.
You're right.
But now you have a guy like Shooter, you have a guy like Harrell, who you would think in theory you would get like 30 to 40 points from those two guys alone. And that's just a luxury to have when you have LeBron and AD on the team as well.
I guess one knock is that when you look at the roster, there's still really only like two ball handlers. That's not really a strength of Caruso or some of our other guards in like KCP, West. You don't really think of them as a ball handler. But we do have Schroeder, who's excellent. We do have LeBron, who's very good, and someone who you have written pieces and shared stuff about, and that's Marc Gasol, who I'm thinking he probably will start, and he's not a ball handler, but he is definitely a playmaker.
Yes.
He is someone who you can run an offense through, you can run sets through, you can just kind of give him the ball street ball wise and have him make a decision. He is excellent. He is smart. And he's, again, though, like, he's not someone that don't if you're listening, don't have me think don't think that I'm saying he's going to score 20 points a game or play 30 minutes either, but he feels like just a sort of a better, more well-rounded version of Dwight from last year.
Yeah, like you said, he to be clear, he's not the Marc Gasol he used to be, right?
Yep.
He's not the Defensive Player of the Year he used to be. He's not the All-Star he used to be. But what he still is an incredible playmaker for his position, like you said. He's another guy I think they can run the offense through when LeBron is tired, or if he's in foul trouble, or if he's not playing that night. He's a guy who can either throw the ball into the post or the high post around the three-point line and just run like weave action, dribble handoffs, pick and pops. Like, he can find guys much like his brother used to do, right? And much to kind of how like Denver uses Nikola Jokic.
Yep.
Where he doesn't move, but if everyone else moves around him, he'll find you. Like, if Caruso cuts, he'll find them. That's why I personally am really excited about Gasol, is because we haven't had a center on the Lakers who, one, can space the floor. He's still a really good three-point shooter. And two, can play make the way Marc Gasol does. And he also kind of fills the void Dwight left, where we need a guy who can defend those bigger centers like Jokic and Embiid. And that's something Gasol can still do at a pretty high level.
And what's so nice too about, and the weaknesses of some of these players, like a Gasol, like a Montrez, who, Montrez wasn't very good in the bubble, or wasn't great in the bubble defensively. I actually think Pete from Laker Film Room was kind of breaking it down a little bit on one of the podcasts recently, and he was talking about how it really wasn't as bad as he was being made out. But the Lakers with the Anthony Davis factor, you know what I mean? That's the difference. It's that you're not like Mark isn't going to be, even if he's your 5 and helping you with big bodies or helping you, you've got Davis in there with him, you'd imagine, most of the time. And that is probably going to be the same thing too. Like there's not going to be a case where you're having Marc Gasol or Montrez as like your only big closing a game out there. That's what's so much different about this team versus where these guys came from before.
Yeah. In many ways they were kind of the lone protector, right? I guess in Toronto,
Surge is kind of, right,
and Siakam. So I think, and that's why those teams were so good defensively.
Absolutely.
And again, like that's important. Not one guy is going to shape your defense. You're not going to put one guy on your team and suddenly you're the top 10 defensive player, a top 10 like defensive team in the league. You need supplementary pieces around you. And thankfully, the Lakers have a guy named Anthony Davis who's pretty good at pretty much everything on defense.
Yeah.
So it does help hide a lot of weaknesses.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we just stack up the way this, maybe starting lineup and possibly bench unit looks. One thing that we already heard the other day was Schroeder said, I want to start, which I have some mixed feelings on in that as a player, I love everybody wants to start, everybody wants to finish, and that's what you want to hear. As a Laker fan, I don't like it because last year was so perfect in that nobody said anything about anything. Like everybody was just, whatever you need me to do, I'll do my role. We'll do that. But so with Schroeder, 1, do you think he starts? 2, where do you kind of stand on like what lineup would you like to see starting? And is it even that big of a deal if he starts, if he comes off the bench? Where do you stand with all this?
Yeah, like obviously I shared some of the same concerns most people had when they first heard those comments. Like you hear those comments in contrast to what we saw last year where the chemistry was just perfect. And I'm not saying that this is going to be a chemistry issue or anything like that, but it's just kind of different than what we're used to. And again, that could be a weakness with the roster. With the more talent you have, that's the more mouths you have to feed on offense.
With the Clippers last year. Yep.
Yeah. So thankfully the Lakers do have enough chemistry guys. A guy like Jared Dudley, again, whose value maybe even more so this year when you have new guys like Trez and Shooter on the team. Mm-hmm. And you have a guy like LeBron who's known to at least put people in their place in a way,
sure.
They know where they have to be. And a guy like Vogel who showed all bubble long and all season long, if you don't play or you don't work out in a particular lineup or against a particular matchup, you're not going to play.
Nope. Didn't care who you were. Dwight, JaVale, Rondo, in, out, whether you were in the rotation. And that's what, and I think where you're getting at is I trust him. He's given me a reason to trust him so far.
Yeah. And so to answer your question, like at the end of the day, I don't think it matters who starts and who doesn't, but I kind of do think Shooter does start. And like the more I think about it, I think we all just assumed because he is like a great 6-man, like that was just the role he was going to be. But like we mentioned earlier, LeBron's going to have to kind of wean himself into the season. And to have a guy right from the opening tip, to have a guy like Shooter in the starting lineup can handle some of that ball handling responsibility to play make, to score. And to have that right in the starting lineup to allow LeBron to kind of catch his breath as the game goes on. And just because a guy starts, I think I want to make this clear, like, doesn't mean they're not going to play with the bench. Like, Vogel showed all last year, he staggers his minutes, right?
And even vice versa. Like, just because Schroeder isn't starting, I would imagine, or if he didn't start, you'd have to imagine he probably would come in at the 6-minute mark when LeBron came out or whenever that was, and he'd probably finish the half and finish most games with the AD and LeBron and then whoever else they fill in.
Yeah, it's not like NBA 2K, right? Like where the starters come out for the bench guys and that's it. There's no like they mesh, and I think that's great. Like to have, like, regardless of who starts, you're still going to get one of Schroeder or LeBron with Montrezl Harrell. Yeah, and I think that's what we want, right? We want Harrell with a pick and roll ball handler, like how he had with the Clippers, and he's going to have two really good ones in LeBron and Schroeder.
And I think the key, which I imagine you and I are talking about this, so I'd imagine Frank knows it too, is just as long as there's a LeBron or a Schroeder out there, I think will be okay. Like one of them to really handle the ball. In other moments, like, and maybe this is something that we add a veteran down the line, in the season, just another backup off the bench who can just kind of help out in a spurt or two here and there. Because as long as one of them is out there, we'll be fine, and it'll help. Because one strength of ours that I do want to make sure that these guys don't get kind of shoved down shoved down the bench is the KCP, the West, the Caruso, like the off guards that can play so well defensively, that can do little things for you. The two, West and KCP, excellent shooters. Caruso, more of a cutter and can still do some offensive stuff. I think that's sort of a strength for us, making sure to get those guys sort of set in their best position to succeed. 3-and-D guys,
Yeah, I think you're outlining the issues, not the issues, but more the challenges Vogel's going to have this year. And like you said, like we didn't even mention Kuzma, right?
Yeah,
like
I know, or a THT who we know they're high on.
Yeah, that's true. So figuring out the rotations and the minutes, and more importantly, the roles and how they're utilized within the offense or defense, like that's going to be way more complicated this year. And like that has pros and cons. Like obviously that's a good problem to have, right? But it also could present some challenges. So I think I think the first like 20, 25 games might be just a lot of experimenting. And if they're not winning a lot of games, I wouldn't panic.
No.
Considering the quick turnaround, considering the influx of new players. I think this is a team that gradually gets better as the year goes along. And that's kind of what we thought last year would be. But it just went perfectly from day one. And that's just not realistic.
No. I mean, you look at a team that will be starting either LeBron, KCP, West, AD, and Gasol, or it might be Schroeder, LeBron, KCP, AD, Gasol. You'll have, it's just unbelievable what you bring off the bench with. You might have a bench of Schroeder, Kuzma, Caruso, Montrez, and Markieff. Yeah. I mean, like that would be a good starting lineup in some places too. And then the bottom of the bench guys in Dudley and Taylor Horton-Tucker, who got some bubble minutes last year and who can, guard wings. He's good defensively.
Yeah, he's played in the playoffs.
I know. It's crazy. Like this 1 through 11 right now, and it's giving me a little bit of goosebumps as we talk, Alex, as a Laker fan and someone that is excited for the season. They've also announced the first 2 games that we're gonna have. I mean, we're recording this on December the 3rd, and there are gonna be games in like 10 days. Preseason games.
I think their first practice is on Sunday. So it's insane. I am not actually ready for this basketball to return, but I am really excited for this team to watch them how they play.
Alex Regla, we talked a little AEW wrestling on this show as well, but where I came across Alex was when I found his work covering the Lakers and NBA. He just does a phenomenal job. He gets a lot into advanced analytics and numbers, and everything is great. It's like what I like about you, Alex, is you're not just an analytics guy. I think that nowadays you kind of have to be a little both. Like it's part narrative and it's part analytics with everything and everyone that we study. That's like all of the stuff that you put out there a lot of the times now on Throwdowns is really, really good stuff. Let everybody know where we can follow you.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. And I come from a not a numbers background. I come from an English background. So I do kind of lean the kind of journalistic approach, and I'm just thankful I have to use numbers. Like that's just part of the modern game. But yeah, you guys can find me at throwdowns.substack. It's a newsletter. It's free. I'm going to be, updating it consistently throughout the years. And the cool thing about the newsletter just goes right to your email. You don't have to go searching for it. Whenever I post something, and it's going to be right there when you wake up in the morning.
Excellent stuff. Alex Regla, thank you so much, buddy. And congratulations again to your family. And I hope you guys have a great holiday season coming up. Man, we'll be talking. I'm gonna be getting back to you in a few weeks because we have games on the 22nd and the 25th right out the bat. Clippers, Mavs. So Laker fans, get ready and make sure you give Alex Regla a follow. Thank you so much, buddy.
Thank you, man. Looking forward to it.
Okay, we will finish up NBA, and we will transition in just a moment. Don't go anywhere on That's What She Said. Big thank you to Alex. You're going to hear him back in just a little bit when we talk about AEW All Elite Wrestling and their big Dynamite show from Wednesday night that was titled Winter is Coming. Big thanks to Alex. We get set for the NBA season. It's the 4th when you're listening to this, December the 4th. On December the 11th, there will be preseason games 1 week from now. Time to talk about Cindy Carava, full-service realtor. Cindy Carava, longtime sponsor of That's What G Said. Her website, Cindy, Carava.com, is where you can find everything you need. Now, she's a full-service realtor. What does that mean? She can help you in many different ways: selling, purchasing, leasing. She can help you find a vendor like a handyman, a painter, a landscaper, gardener that she personally uses. She can help you getting pre-approved for a home loan. She can connect you to lenders that she works closely with and can highly recommend. Covering all parts of the San Gabriel Valley, parts of North San Diego County, Del Mar, Solana Beach, Rancho Santa Fe. She can even help just get a free market analysis of your home's value. Maybe you just want to see how much your home is worth. And right now, she has a Black Friday special through December the 31st to the end of 2020. If you list, purchase, or refi your home with Cindy by December 31st, she will compensate you for up to $1,500 for services including appraisal, physical inspection, and home warranty. Get you and your family into a new home this holiday season. For more information, give Cindy a call, 626-394-6400. Full service realtor Cindy Carava. Anything you need in that field, make sure to check in with her. Let her know Gino sent you. She will take great care of you. On to the NFL. Erik joins us, eToff 21 Sports, and we go game by game by game. We start with Bears-Lions, going through each of the 15 games for Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, and we're going through totals, point spreads, injury news, reasons why we would play one team or the other, numbers that we're looking for, anything and everything that you need to get you all set up for NFL Week 13. Kick back and enjoy the discussion with Erik. NFL Week 13, and a frequent guest on That's What G Said podcast, Erik, eToff 21 Sports, joins us to discuss this upcoming week. But I guess before we go forward to this week, Erik, have to just mention the craziness that was Week 12. This, for the most part, the NFL has done a good job with all the COVID stuff this year. There have been a couple key players. There was the stuff with the Titans earlier in the year. But heading into Week 12, for the most part, everything was pretty good. And then it just seemed like Week 12, we had a situation where, we had to have a game moved repeatedly. That was supposed to be the primetime game on Thanksgiving night. We had a situation where the Broncos had no quarterback whatsoever. And it definitely got to the worst it's been this last week.
Yeah, a lot of stuff was affected. Colts were missing some key guys up front.
Yeah. How about that? Buckner, they
allowed Henry to have that huge game. That game would have played out totally different. The Broncos, I kind of feel that Shermer and Fangio just kind of tanked that game. I feel that was kind of a poor effort, because I kind of look at it like, if you call and you tell me I have 24 hours to do something, I look at it, hey, I have 24 hours. I think they easily could have put together 10 plays for Hilton to know and 5 Wildcat plays for Freeman or Lindsey to run out of.
And those weren't the right guys in that situation. They've never been accused of being creative offensively or good offensive minds. And it's like, to have a worse staff to be put in that situation, they look bad. So just a lot of things to keep in mind moving forward is, when you see some of these the points or movement, remember that a lot of times the public is reacting to what they just saw, especially if there are big scores or teams that get crushed. So keep that in mind week to week when you're playing these games. And we are into Week 13. There are 2 buys coming up this week, and we have no Thursday game, but we have 2 Monday games and a Tuesday game. We're coming off of a week where we just had a Wednesday game. And just to kind of set the tone of what the league looks like right now, The Bengals are starting Brandon Allen. The Jags have Mike Glennon as their quarterback. For the Jets, it's Sam Darnold, but he's been pretty bad. The Giants are starting Colt McCoy, who at 7-21 against the spread is the worst ever mark as a starter with that sample size against the spread. Carson Wentz might be the worst quarterback in the league this year. The Broncos, we sort of like Lock a little bit, but he's inconsistent, and they just played a game without a quarterback. The Cowboys are starting Dalton. The 49ers are starting Mullins. The Washington football team is actually starting their third quarterback, and he looks better than the first two that played this year. Cam Newton has looked horrible for the Patriots. The Ravens just played without Lamar Jackson. The Saints are starting Taysom Hill. The Dolphins have gone back and forth from Tua to Fitz. Josh Allen was banged up last week for the Bills. Kyler Murray has been banged up. He looks like he's going to be healthier this week. And the Bears don't know what to do with Foles and Trubisky. So there are some teams out there with some quarterback issues heading into this week, Eric, as we get to the first game that we're going to discuss. It's the Bears versus the Lions, and are we going to get that coach fire bump for the Lions? This is your team here. I know you've been pounding the drum to fire Patricia for a while. He was just abysmal as the head coach at 13-29-1. And in the last 2 years, he was 31st and 27th in yards allowed. And that was supposed to be what he was, a defensive coach.
I mean, I really feel the reason the Lions didn't fire him sooner was they were afraid that what happened with Belichick when the Browns let him go, and then he went to the Patriots. I think they just were fearful that if they let him go, he would go somewhere else and be this great coach, which the fact that all these ex-players were coming out talking trash about him,
they hate him,
just shows you how bad of a coach he actually was. And then there's this a Twitter account that's obviously his burner. It's like Eddie P. Lions fan. And he's defending every single thing. And I have a funny...
He didn't get to make all the decisions in the locker room, and stuff like that. It's just...
And, I mean, I was, when they first hired him, I was really excited. It was right after they won the Super Bowl.
Yep.
And I was really excited. And I was talking to my buddy on the phone, and he told me the story. He was actually at this restaurant where the Patriots were celebrating their Super Bowl victory. There was this huge commotion at the door. Someone was trying to get in. They weren't trying to let this guy in. And the guy was like, "Sir, we don't let homeless people into the restaurant." The guy was Patricia. I mean, that, looking back at it, that should have been my first red flag.
He said something to someone about, like a reporter, about not looking presentable.
Yep. And he shows up to a Super Bowl party, and the bouncer thought he was a homeless man. It's just mind-boggling to me.
And the crazy thing, too, that you hit is the players that have been coming out that have been, they're so happy he's gone. Because you don't see that happen as often in the NFL, because a lot of the players understand that these guys, when they leave, are going to go end up somewhere and be a coordinator that you're going to run into. So you don't see people really bad-mouthing each other that blatantly. Like, this guy was not liked at all. And I love playing the off the coach bounce. And you got the Bears here, who are a 3-point favorite against the Lions. Over-under in this game is 45. The Bears offensively have just been so bad, and they're a little banged up on the defensive end too. I'm definitely leaning Lions side on this one.
I am going to wait to see. It keeps on fluctuating between 3 and 3.5. I'm definitely going to be on the Lions. You can get the 3 right now. I'm going to hold out for the 3.5.
Yep.
In terms of the Bears, Foles and Trubisky are both upset with the play calling. They feel like the play calling isn't giving them a chance to succeed. You have Nagy calling out the players about not giving an effort, which is not good. That should be handled internally. You shouldn't be voicing that stuff out in the media. Lions' offensive line is actually the strength of the team. It's graded out pretty good by Pro Football Focus. And Akeem Hicks is banged up. If Akeem Hicks doesn't go, that's huge for the Lions, because they would be able to get the running game going with Swift if he's able to play. They came out today saying he had an illness, so I don't know if that's COVID-related or not. So either Peterson or Johnson or Swift should be able to get the run game going if Hicks doesn't play. And also, if Hicks doesn't play, that's going to allow the Lions to double-team Mack during the pass rush. I'm definitely going to lock in the Lions 3.5, and also if I can find plus 150 or higher on the money line.
Yeah, I agree. I place a money line here. Lions are 4-7 on the year, 4-7 against the spread, and the Bears are 5-6, 5-6 against the spread. As we move along to game number 2 on the slate, Saints Falcons. The Saints are now 9-2, 6-5 against the spread. Falcons are 4-7, 5-6 against the spread. This game is Saints -3 on the road against the Falcons. Over under in this game 45.5. 45s are up on the board. Also, I'm looking for spots to play against the Saints with Hill because he just hasn't been very good. And 2 weeks ago, when these two teams played, Atlanta was moving the ball early on, and they sort of did the same thing against the Raiders early, but the Raiders were just so bad it didn't matter. That Atlanta just kick field goal, kick field goal, kick field goal. Do we know about Julio Jones in this game? And do you have a side with Atlanta with the Saints as a 3-point favorite on the road?
I know Julio didn't go today, and the main thing with Matt Ryan looks at Julio like a security blanket.
I know.
His numbers are night and day when Julio's
Horrible.
out there versus when he's not out there. I look at it like this. This is their second time seeing Taysom Hill. They probably really didn't know what to expect that first time. That's why he was able to have a good game. But he really didn't have that good game for a quarterback. I mean, he had that one god-awful throw down the field that was insanely short to Emmanuel Sanders. So the Falcons will definitely have more film on him. And Kamara is their most explosive player, and he's a zero factor right now just because Hill can't complete a simple pass to him. Every Monday I do my DFS guys I like to build around, and this is the first time I only have one Saint player, and that's Latavius Murray in my build. That's the only guy I trust. I definitely like the Falcons in this spot. 3, same thing as the Lions. 3, and if the money line's over plus 150, I'll be in that, and I'll probably parlay the Falcons and the Lions together money line wise.
Yeah, I'm with you too. I'm on the Falcon side, 3 to 3.5 in here. It's just Hill was not good last week against the Broncos. I mean, he wasn't, and this is like, I think this is sort of like Sean Payton being a little bit stubborn and trying to prove a point more than doing what's best for his football team. Because I think they would just be better with Jameis. And they've won, right? They've won, but they're not worried necessarily about winning these couple of games. This team is a legitimate Super Bowl contender. So what for them, they have to look at it like, if they're not going to have Drew Brees, who do they have a better opportunity of winning the Super Bowl with? And I just don't think they can win a Super Bowl with a guy that can't throw the ball down the field like we saw with Taysom Hill. At least Jameis would give you that option. So I wonder if at some point, maybe his stubbornness of like trying to prove that my guy can work, it feels like it's going to catch up with him at some point, and it may be here, right?
But I totally agree. And I feel the last 3 years, the Saints have had the most talented team each of the 3 years. But it comes to, like you said, Peyton's stubbornness that is costing them games in the playoffs.
He's too
with
cute
his play
with
calling.
stuff.
Like, why you have Drew Brees and you're bringing in Taysom Hill for stuff? Like, that stuff just doesn't fly for me. I want the Hall of Famer making a throw. I don't want some gadget player in a critical situation.
No, and you've got this great security blanket in Kamara where like they could literally just run like plays 2 little short outs to Kamara up and down the field and go up and down the field all the time. So I don't feel like this is the best version of the Saints, or I feel like there are multiple versions of the Saints that could be better. This could be a sneaky game for them to get caught here. We move along to Colts at Texans. This game is now, I think it's up to 3.5 because we're starting to see some of these Colts players get healthier. Erik, they played in a very deceiving game last week, as you mentioned, where I think it was Buckner, and then there were 2 other players right in the middle of their defense that were out, and then they lost Costanzo, so they were really banged up, and there's just no way you're going to stop someone like Derrick Henry when you don't have those key players in the middle of your defense. So I think the Colts are going to win this game. Obviously, there's no Fuller for Houston too. I think Cobb is a little banged up in here too, so some of their weapons are in peril. I don't know if I'd want to play it at 3.5. 3 and under 3, I'd lean to the Colts, but I think they're going to bounce back with a healthier squad here. Rivers is a little banged up, something to keep an eye on. We got the Colts. Texans, Colts are 7-4, 6-5 against the spread. Texans 4-7, 4-7 against the spread. And over under right now 51 in here.
I mean, when I look at this game, one of my rules, and I have all these rules with betting, is never lay points on the road. So that immediately takes me off the Colts.
Yep.
They're definitely, I read a report today that's getting Buckner back. When Buckner and Leonard play, this is a top defense in the league. When one of them is out, it's middle of the road at best.
Mm-hmm.
With that being said, the Texans lost Fuller. That's going to promote Cooks and Kuti up to prime the first and second wide receivers. I think it's going to take them a half to kind of get the offense going, especially against the Colts D, which isn't going to give up as many points. Like you said, Rivers is hurt. Colts are historically bad starters with Rivers under center. The first half under is 24.5. 24 is the key number. So I'm leaning, if I play this game, it would be play the first half under 24.5 total points.
Just a couple notes on the Texans. They are 4-3 since the firing of O'Brien. And Deshaun Watson, since week 5 with that coaching change, 70.6 completion percentage, 2,109 yards. His touchdown to interceptions plus 16 touchdowns, and his passer rating 120.3. Just to put that into comparison, Mahomes has a 116.3 since week 5. So Watson has been incredible. The problem is that their defense isn't any better, and they just keep losing weapons. He can be as good as he can, and they're probably closer to a 500 team than their 4-7 record because they still lost a couple of games. One that you and I were on when they should have beat the Titans, no doubt about it. So I don't have a strong opinion on this one way or the other. Erik likes that under in the first half. We move along to Raiders Jets over under 47.5. Raiders are, I think, up to 9. It was 8. Now it keeps moving. This game is up to 9 in some spots. The Jets are awful. They're terrible. Gase is bad. But the Raiders, if this was a game where the Raiders were just coming off the Kansas City game, I played against them last week. It was a brutal spot for them. This feels like at least you got punched in the mouth, and now you have a little bit of time to realize it. But the Raiders did have to travel last week, go back, and then travel back across the country. It's up to 9 here. This is the point of the year last year when the Raiders absolutely fell apart. Are they going to bounce back in this game against the lowly Jets?
I mean, first of all, did you see the report that came out that Gase admitted he hasn't done anything for Darnold's development?
Yeah.
I mean,
and the other day when he lied about the play calling, they told him
it's just
he's so stupid.
It's just amazing to me. Like why would you say it? Why would you say that about the play calling? Why would you admit you're supposed to be this offensive genius and you're not developmenting your young quarterback? It just, the whole situation is just mind-boggling to me. I look at the Jets schedule and I say to myself, they obviously don't want to go 0-16. When is the game they could win? I'm thinking it's either this game or the last game, week 17 against the Patriots, so the Patriots just shut everything down. What the number is screaming to take the Jets, but at the end of the day, both these teams just have way too many questions for me to be anything financially invested in. Gruden is running Josh Jacobs into the ground like he did to Cadillac Anderson back in the Tampa Bay game. Jacobs probably has 2 years left in his NFL shelf life just because of how much running they're doing. They're running the ball 53% of the time. That's by far the most in the NFL. And he's just ruining Josh Jacobs' longevity of his career. I just can't be anything invested in this game because I have so many questions on both teams.
If it's got to 10, I'd take the Jets side. At 9, it's still kind of in between for me. I can absolutely see the Jets with a late backdoor to cover in this game. But this feels like a game for a Raiders team that was just knocked out of the playoff mix. This is like their season. They have to come back and play better. It's not easy to go on the road, cross the country back and forth. And that loss to Kansas City a couple weeks ago, it might have broke their heart a little bit too. So we'll see. I'm with you. I don't have a strong opinion either way. Raiders 6-5, 7-4 against the spread. The Jets 0-11, 3-8 against the spread, with the coach that just said he hasn't prepared their top pick quarterback that was supposed to be their franchise quarterback, and the coach who earlier in the week got called out by a reporter for blatantly lying. They were like, "Coach, you were calling the plays," and he was like, no, I wasn't. It's like, well, we had a camera on the other coach who you said was calling the plays, and he was not even talking. He didn't have a headset on. There was no way he was calling the play. Oh, so that's what you. Well, this guy, there is something to be said about having to have a certain type of personality to be a head coach. That's the difference between being a coordinator and a head coach. And that's the reason why there are a lot of very good coordinators that when they become a head coach, they're terrible because they don't have people skills. They can't connect. We saw this the first time that he had his first press conference where his eyes were like frozen and he was like looking ahead. He just doesn't connect very well. And he doesn't have a very long shelf life.
He's gone.
Jets. He's
and
gone.
It shows you like Peyton Manning, like he was the OC when Manning had all those.
He's been living off him.
Denver. But it just shows you like if you're able to button hook your career to somebody in the NFL, just the longevity you will have being crap. I mean,
the Dolphins from a couple years ago were good. Like, think about how many of those players from those Dolphins teams have left and gone and been very impactful or good other places. Tannehill, Drake, Minkah Fitzpatrick, the wide receivers. Parker was terrible and didn't really get going until he left. Like, he like makes good players bad.
Yeah, it just amazes me as a job, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it does. And we move along to Titans Browns here, and this one is 5.5 or 6. The Titans are favored, and this is a game that I really like this week, Eric. I've watched this Titans team repeatedly through the year, and they're coming off of games that look really, really great on paper, right? You're talking about a win against the Ravens, and then you're talking about another win against your rivals in the Colts. But I mean, they were both banged up in both of those games, right up the middle, right where the Titans want to hit them. I think this is a sneaky matchup, and I feel like there's a little value on the Brown side.
Out of every game on the board, this is the game that I love the most. You have, like you said, the Titans coming off their game of the year where they played great against the Colts, who are missing some very key pieces in the defensive end that allowed Henry to have the monstrous game he had. Guess who's coming back for the Browns this week? Myles Garrett. I know you're a Rams fan, but I'm sorry. I really feel Myles Garrett's the best defender in the league.
He's right now. He's absolutely on the very short list. He's right there with Donald. Absolutely.
So that's going to – and the Titans, they have trouble in the offensive line. They're banged up in the offensive line. The reason why Jonnu Smith's production has dropped the last 5 weeks, is because he's actually not running as many routes. He's staying in the pass block. So you got Garrett that's going to come in and attack a weak offensive line, going to stop the run. He's going to get to Tannehill. And then you have the Browns, who have the best running game in the NFL with Chubb and Hunt. They're going to use that running game to set up the play action that's going to attack the Titans, who are the 26th worst team defending the pass. I love the Browns plus the 6. I love the Browns to straight up win. And the over-under is 53.5. To me, both these teams, when they get the lead, just take the air out of the ball and just run the clock. That's way too high. I'm going to be on the under in the game, too. I like all three of them.
I'm with you on all sides. It's what's happened with this game, too, is you're getting a couple extra points because people are overreacting to last week, Tennessee's win, and Cleveland's just slight victory over the Jags. There were a couple things going into play there. First, everyone's, Baker's terrible because he missed a wide open throw. Sure, he missed a bad throw, but he was actually very good the rest of the game. I think he had 2 off throws, and other than that, he had really good throws into tight windows, and he got in rhythm with Landry, which I think could be key for this game because now you're playing against another really bad secondary that you mentioned, a team who is just awful against the pass. And late in that Jags game, there was some questionable officiating that gave the Jags an opportunity to score that made the game closer than it was. If the Jags don't score late, Cleveland covers that game, and we might not have gotten an extra point or two. Maybe we would have, but still, in the overreaction from what it was early, this thing has already floated up a couple points. I do like Cleveland quite a bit in this spot, and it's liking Cleveland and thinking they've been decent this year and a little bit better than people think because they've had to deal with that bad weather. It was almost like they were in a different world for a month with all these bad weather games. So a lot of their numbers and their stats, when you look at them, they don't really add up. They're not high on DVOA and stuff. And I think some of that is built in because of their weather. They weren't able to really have these games where they pass the ball and move smoothly. And we saw last week their offense can hum when they have everything going. You bring Garrett back to help them shut down Henry. Yeah, you and I are definitely going to be watching and rooting for the Browns this week. I also agree.
The other thing, I don't mean to cut you off, but the other thing I've noticed with Mayfield is OBJ getting hurt was great for him because he's not looking his way. He's scanning the whole field now and getting everyone involved. It was like he was force-feeding Beckham the ball.
He felt a little pressure to get him the ball. Yeah.
So, and I'm not a Mayfield guy, but he's definitely, as long as he passes 20 to 23 times a game and they have the run game going with the play action, this is a sneaky little team.
Yep. And again, things that I was mentioning, this is another new coaching staff for him, and a coaching staff that, how many games this year were games that felt like they would have been a Browns loss last year? Even that Jags game, right? Yep. It was like they were the type of Chargers team that found ways to lose in these past years, and they're not doing that at all. They're 8-3 this year, bad against the spread, 4-7, but I like them better in a situation like this against the spread. If they're a 7 or 8 point favorite against a bad team, who cares? They don't care if they beat them by more than a field goal, and we've seen a couple games that they could have covered, but they just ran the clock out. The game when Chubb went down, things like that. So we got the Titans, who are also 8-3. They are 5-6 against the spread in a very intriguing matchup this weekend. We're both on the Browns. We're both on the under there also. We move along to Dolphins, Bengals, and Dolphins are an 11.5 point favorite against the Bengals. And a lot of this is because of the quarterback situation here. We're going to have, for the Bengals, Brandon Allen starting, and the Dolphins look like it will be Fitzpatrick again because Tua, let's be honest, he was a little banged up, so we don't know if that was honest or if it was just because he didn't look good. He really didn't look very good, and they were winning games because their defense was scoring points at an unsustainable level. As far as what's better for the Dolphins, they're better. They have a better opportunity of making it to the playoffs, winning the division, winning a game in the playoffs right now with Fitzpatrick, in my opinion.
Oh, I agree 100% on the top of my notes on this game. It all depends on if Tua plays or doesn't, if I'm involved in this game. I when we did our draft, when I came on your show and did the draft preview, I had Tua as my fourth best quarterback. I've been against Tua the whole time.
From day one.
And he's got a lot of flaws. And I truthfully feel that his thumb isn't as banged up as they're saying it is. And Flores is realizing that to make the playoffs, which for a young team to make a playoffs is huge, to win a game in the playoffs is even bigger. I think he was realizing Fitzpatrick gives him that best opportunity. If Fitzpatrick is playing, this game is a pure stay away for me. If Fitzpatrick is sitting and it's Tua, I'm going to be in on the Bengals for sure.
The Bengals, unfortunately, without Burrow, are now 2-8-1, 7-4 against the spread. Miami 7-4, 8-3 against the spread here. And this is a big game for Miami. The loss a couple weeks ago to Denver is a loss that may end up hurting their playoff chances down the line. So they can't take any game lightly. And I agree with you.
But when you look at the Bengals, though, I mean, they're competing. They're in games.
Oh, they battled last week. I know.
They're definitely trending
they're
in
better
the right
with
direction
than with Finley for sure.
They're just, I mean, if they just get one more offensive lineman and a pass rusher, they're set. Assuming Burrow's healthy, of course. But I mean, they're competing for Taylor. They're actually a little ahead of where I thought they'd be at this point.
They're in a tough division too. I like this team in the future moving forward with a healthy Burrow. This over-under, this total is around 42.5 as we move to Vikings-Jags. Vikings, this game is up to 10.5 now. Is a 10.5 point favorite against the Jags. Over-under is 52. I believe they're going to get Thielen back from the COVID list. The Vikings are. Jags are 1-10, 5-6 against the spread. Minnesota 5-6, 6-5 against the spread. Cook was a little bit banged up at the end of last week, something to keep an eye on. Minnesota was able to come back after those back-to-back fumble sixes against them last week. This feels a little high to me, up at 10.5 for the Vikings. I don't I don't know if I have a strong opinion either way, but I don't know if I could lay 10.5 with Minnesota here.
I mean, I look at it like this. You look at the Jags over the past month, every game's been competitive except for the Steelers game. And even there, they're in it till the end. Jake Lutton, who was playing quarterback at that time, he just missed a couple throws. They play hard for Monroe. The offense funnels through James Robinson. And Glennon showed he could make some throws. This Vikings defense is not that good. I mean, their linebacker core is good. They really don't have a pass rusher. They are banged up in the secondary. I like the Jags to cover, and something important to remember is the Vikings right now are 5-6. They're one game out of the playoff picture.
Yeah.
They have Tampa Bay next. If they get up like a touchdown, like late in the fourth, they're just going to sit on the ball. Like this, like 10 points, over 10.5, this is golden because the Vikings, they don't want to be banged up going against Tampa next week because that's a huge game for them. They're going to get the lead, and they're just going to take the air out of the ball.
This feels way too high. I agree.
Yeah, so I'm definitely going to be on the Jags this game.
Yeah, and keep an eye on Colin Johnson, wide receiver for the Jags.
Mm-hmm.
If they're banged up at wide receiver, and if Shark's missing, and if they're down Connolly again too, he might be someone to throw in DFS. He seemed like he had a good connection with Glennon when he came in last week.
Shark practiced today.
So so that's something to keep an eye on. Yeah, so Shark for them definitely helps them as a team overall. You know, like their chances of winning. No Shark will hurt them a little bit, but maybe someone to throw in as a cheap flyer if Shark isn't there or if he's banged up. Keep monitoring that over the next day and a half. As we move along to Rams Cardinals. Rams are a 3-point favorite against the Cardinals. Over under, and this is 48.5. Rams fan, but man, I love this spot against the Rams last week. They were coming off the big win the week before. They don't match up very well with the 49ers. The 49ers were coming off the bye. They were getting back healthy. It just was a recipe to beat the Rams. Now the Rams are going to try to bounce back against the Cardinals, and you just mentioned Minnesota. I mean, this is a massive game for a Cardinals team that is only one game up on Minnesota for the final playoff spot. And Kyler Murray has been a little banged up the last couple of weeks. He has not been running as much. He has not looked as good. And when you go through this team and you start to break them down game by game by game, they beat the Bills on a Hail Mary. They had a last-second field goal win in a game that they did not lead the game at any point until kicking the winning field goal. There were a couple of games that they could have lost early that they didn't. I trust and I like Kyler, and he's better than I thought he was going to be. He's excellent. And a healthy Kyler is capable, I think, of beating any team in a one-game scenario and taking you down and getting a game-winning drive. I don't know if he's healthy, one. And two, I do not trust Cliff Kingsbury at all. I just, as a decision-making coach, he's terrible. As a play caller and a play designer, and like between the 20s, he's really good. Sean McVay has a little bit of this in him too. I think Sean's still better, but like last week is just a coaching. You got Belichick against Cliffy. It was just like coaching malpractice there with those two. I still don't know if I could go to the Rams at -3. Did the line feels like right there? It's moved a little bit. I think a lot of this has to do with Kyler. What version of Kyler are we going to see? So at Rams at Arizona -3, over under is around 48. Let's see, Rams are 7-4, 6-5 against the spread. Arizona 6-5, 5-6 against the spread.
This is a big game for both teams. You have the Rams they have the half game up and own the tiebreaker against the Buccaneers for the top wild card spot. But they're also battling Seattle. They're one game back for Seattle, and I believe they still have to play each other one more time, correct?
Yep.
So, I mean, that's big. So this is a big game for them. Like you said, big game for the Cardinals. They're up one on the Vikings, 49ers, and Bears for that last spot. It's going to be interesting. Defensively, this game, everyone's focusing on the offense for both reasons with these teams. But for me, are the Rams only going to rush two like Belichick did? Are the Cardinals going to be able to get pressure in Goff's face? When I look at this game, those are the two biggest questions. Defensively, how the defense is going to play. Obviously, Murray is hurt. Since this is such a big game, they're going to shoot that shoulder up with as many painkillers as they possibly can.
Yeah.
I think this is going to have like a kind of like that playoff type game feel to it.
I agree. It does feel like such
a big game. Right now, the over-under for the first half is at 23.5. In games like this, what I like to do is I like to wait for the over-under to get to 24 because that's such a key number. If it gets to 24, what I like to do is I like to bet the under of 24 total points first half and then bet that in the second half the teams are going to open it up more. Then I bet the prop more points scored second half than first half. So that's kind of my strategy with this game. But right now, all my books have it at 23, so I'm kind of sitting it out right now.
Yeah, the Rams in the last 8 games, they've scored 30 points or less. They're 3-3 in their last 6, and they've only been averaging 21.2 points per game in that stretch. So, you think about the Rams with a high scoring and high flying attack. This year for them, it's been a very talented defense because they were so skilled at some of the key defensive positions on the front and then in the coverage spot with Ramsey back there. So this is a fascinating game to me, and I really don't have a strong opinion one way or the other. Just a massive game for both of these teams coming.
And the Rams got some weapons too. Like I really feel like I've been a huge Akers guy. I thought I know he's been hurt, and that's why he hasn't been able to get in the field. But I thought last week against the 49ers, and I was on the 49ers too, I thought he looked way more explosive running than Henderson did. And also, Josh Reynolds, I mean, he played 98% of the snaps last week. I think since most of the defenses funnel their coverage to Woods and Kupp, I think they need to pepper Reynolds a lot more moving forward because he's sneaky talented too.
Agree. Higbee was excellent last year. They haven't gotten Higbee into the mix as much too. So there are other weapons that the Rams can use. And a game I'm really looking forward to watching this week. We have, as I mentioned earlier, I think it's 7-21 against the spread as a starter. Colt McCoy has the worst against the spread numbers as a NFL quarterback starter with that sort of a sample size. And he will be the QB for the Giants this week. And they're going to be playing against the Seahawks. So this game is up to 10. Seattle is a 10-point favorite at home. The Giants have to come play at Seattle. Total in this one is around 47 or so. Seattle with, they won. And I wouldn't say a big win. They just, every game against the East seems a little bit ugly, and they have another East opponent, NFC East opponent to deal with in here. And I mean, every one of these games for the Giants, for the Eagles, for the Washington football team are huge because they're all going to be underdogs in most of these games that are not, that are non-divisional games. So anytime any one of them can just snatch a win somewhere, it's huge.
Oh, I know. And it's just, this division is just mind-boggling to me. And I mean,
I feel bad for Daniel Jones and for the Giants because they were starting to play pretty well. Like their defense had gotten better. They were starting to play better, but now you're missing Daniel Jones, who had kind of started to clean things up a little bit too.
Yeah, but they also fired their offensive line coach. Their offensive line started blocking better, setting up more holes for Gelman, Gelman's actually been playing well. He's putting up good numbers.
Yeah.
Defensively, this team is insanely underrated, and James Bradbury is one of the most underrated DBs in the league. I think he's going to be able to match up well with DK. I wouldn't say shut him down, but do a way better job than Slay will. And historically, this is one of those Seahawks spots where you think to yourself, okay, they're going to cruise, they're going to win, but it's a close game to the fourth quarter. Then Wilson leads them down, gets a late touchdown, and they win it. Like, because you look at the Seahawks schedule, I mean, they have the Giants, Jets, Washington, Rams. That's like 3 kind of games. I think they're just going to kind of coast by.
Yeah,
and with how bad Seattle's defense is, there is no way you can lay a number. I mean, there was no. I'll admit it. I had the Eagles plus the 6.5 on Monday night. There was no way the Eagles should have covered that game with how bad offensively they looked. But since the Seahawks defense is so awful, they gave up the Hail Mary and the 2-point conversion at the end of the game. I have zero confidence ever laying points with the Seahawks.
I agree.
I mean, the line's kind of forcing me to bet the Giants.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
No, and they're a team that I like to play in situations where, like, they might be on the road as a pick'em or like as a small dog, with Russ, with like, knowing that Russ can win a game for you. It just, I don't see why they have to cover this game by 10, just like you said. I just don't know what their incentive is to win this game by 11.
They're just trying to keep healthy.
Exactly. When Giants can get a late, like, garbage time cover to, like, I couldn't, probably not going to play I probably won't play it, but I definitely couldn't play Seattle. I'd be leaning on the Giants side, no doubt. They're 4-7, 7-4 against the spread. Seattle is 8-3, 6-5 against the spread. We move along to the Packers versus the Eagles, and man, how the Eagles have fallen. The Packers are an 8.5-point favorite here, so they're the home team. Over under in this game, 47.5, 48 in some spots. I mean, it feels like 20 years ago when the Eagles won the Super Bowl, and not just a few. The coaching staff has not looked really the same since Reich left. And Wentz, I mean, this year, he has been so bad. I know they're banged up. I know they've been missing a lot of weapons and stuff. He has been horrible. I mean, I don't think Green Bay is necessarily a world beater either. They have plenty of issues themselves on the defensive side of the ball. I don't know how strong they are, but from a pure disappointment in a football team, like how easy would it have been for Philly to just have a 3 or 4 game lead in this division this year?
Oh, I mean, they've been awful. They've been awful. But this is the situation as a bettor that I look for and I love. You have
they just came off a Monday night game too, where they looked horrible. Everybody saw them look horrible.
And everyone saw the Packers look good in the primetime game on Sunday against the Bears. So I mean,
I hate laying points with like we were saying with the Seahawks. I hate laying big points with the Packers. Anything over a touchdown like this.
Oh, I love the Eagles in this spot just because there's some key secondary injuries with the Packers. Like Alexander is their best corner is hurt. They struggle against the run. And I just want to know when is Peterson, when is the light going to go off that says, hey, I'm only giving Miles Sanders, who's my most explosive player by far, 15 touches a game. He needs to be between 20 and 25. Have it be the screen game, draws, whatever. He's not touching the ball enough. And this situation, it was a couple years ago. Hell, it may have even been the year where they won the Super Bowl. Eagles were 0-3. All this talk about them going 0-4. They go into Green Bay. It was a Thursday night game. I think they were catching 6.5 or 7. They straight up win. I love
this. Does feel like a win. This does feel like a game they're going to win because they got a tough schedule coming up too, and I know this is like one of those weird tricky games, and you're getting a few points already built in because in just the last couple of days the thing has gone up a couple points.
Oh, I mean, I'm looking at Bet Online right now, which is one of the main books I use. It's at 9 and plus 320. I'm definitely going to be invested in both of them just because, like you said, like when your back's against the wall, which basically it is for the Eagles, and they looked so bad, it can only go up from here. But I really do feel that in order for them to win, this has to be a huge Miles Sanders game.
Yeah, the thing about them that's so polarizing too is that they're different from other teams that are quote unquote bad in that like some of the other bad teams, we're playing them in a spot and we're playing them because, the team that they're playing against had a short week or has missing player, this and that. Like the Eagles are a team that actually have ability. Like they have talent. They just don't put it together like enough. And if they do, like any week, if the Eagles just blew out even a good team, it wouldn't be that surprising. Because they have like the template is there. Like you said, you get Miles Sanders involved. All of a sudden, it makes things how much easier for Carson Wentz to where he's not forcing things into tight windows. The windows are more open. They've got some playmakers on the defensive side of the ball. Like they shouldn't be this bad of a team. So whenever they're a huge dog like this, it's hard to look away. And I could never play Green Bay in this situation at all. Even how bad Philly has looked because it's there still. They still can beat a team like Green Bay, and you can't really say that for a lot of the other bad teams in the league.
Plus, they're getting Zach Ertz back, so that's another weapon. So they have Ertz, Dallas Gallagher, who I think is their best receiver. He's a matchup nightmare. I mean, they're getting pieces back. Packers are bad against the run, banged up secondary. I mean, you just got to take the Eagles here. I'll straight up to win and plus the points.
We move along to the Chargers and the Patriots. Talk about a coaching mismatch last week with the Patriots and the Cardinals. We got one here with the Patriots and the Chargers. This game is at a pick'em right now. Chargers are the home team here, and the total is 47.5. Erik, what the hell were the Chargers doing last week? Oh my God. Even at the end of the game, you're not going to win this game. You complete a Hail Mary. You have no timeouts left. All you get in the end zone, or you just you spike the ball. You throw a pass, period. You spike it, stop the clock, or you drop back and throw a fade. So that way, if it's incomplete, you get the clock stopped, and you got a couple chances to get in the end zone, get an onside kick. They ran the ball.
Oh my God!
I don't think I've ever seen anything that stupid. I mean, to be honest, Anthony Lynn. I watched Hard Knocks. He came off like such a great guy, and and I think that's why he's gotten opportunities to be a head coach, because he seems like a really good guy. But he didn't even know what to say when he was asked about it after. He kept saying, I don't know. They asked him why we did it. I don't know. I mean, it's gotten really out of hand for this team.
And I was livid because I was perfect at the 12 o'clock games. And my last play in the 12 o'clock games with Chargers plus 4.5. Herbert hits that Hail Mary. I'm thinking, okay, jump ball Mike Williams. We get this home.
Yeah.
I'm like, what are you doing? And the thing that Lynn has done, now granted, complete polar opposite than Patricia. No one says a bad word with him. Great guy, everything. But he's kind of built that culture of losing.
Yes.
And they just can't win these games. And for a young quarterback, that's a pretty big thing if you don't learn how to win.
Now. You can't let it go any farther. You don't want to give him another year of that. It's actually, I mean, thinking about it makes me more impressed with Herbert, that he's doing this with an Anthony Lynn head coach, and they've started just kind of like letting him throw the ball, and now they've got Eckler back, who's a weapon. It's just, what's so frustrating about this team is every one of those games is like a one-score, one-possession game, and they find and create ways to lose. A missed field goal, sort of a just bonehead play after bonehead play, and
time management skills. I mean, it's just they're 3-8. They could easily be 8-3, 7-4. And the thing is like, okay, you figure Chargers, Jets, Jags, Lions, Texans, Broncos, Bears, off the top of my head. Those teams are going to be the teams looking for the new coaching. By far, this is the team that you want to coach. They have a young quarterback, good offensive line, Bosa, Ingram, Murray, a young linebacker. The talent level, this team, Eckler, Allen, Mike Williams, who I think is the best jump ball catcher in the NFL.
Hunter Henry's a good tight end.
Oh, yeah. If I'm the enemy, everyone's talking about Texans. No. I want to go to the Chargers. This team is set up to win right now. And I mean, I'm in my office right now. I have my little, what is it called? I have my whiteboard I walk right on. Top of the thing in big letters is don't bet on the Chargers for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
So I mean, I can't bet on them. They have way too many questions. So now I look at the Patriots. With the Patriots, Cam has not looked the same since COVID-19.
No.
COVID-19 has completely changed. Like, I don't know, because I don't talk to him. I have no connection with him, but my eyes are telling me he's nowhere near what he was before COVID-19, before he got it back in.
He just doesn't move.
He doesn't.
He's not moving, slower, everything. And he's missing, like, the throws that he's missing. He wasn't missing those players earlier in the year. He's never been a quarterback that anybody would say was the most accurate quarterback in the league, but he has a strong arm. And I think when he has his good games and when he's good, he's more accurate than people think. But I have to say, the last few weeks, he has been atrocious. I mean, he's missing guys wide open. He single-handedly should have lost. He's already lost them a game when he turned the ball over against the Bills when they were driving and they could have beat him earlier in the year. And basically, I mean, he should have lost them the game last week. They don't lose because Gonzalez can't hit a 45-yard field goal, and then they get the opportunity to go down and kick a field goal with great field position. So
and there's a suspect flag too that gave him in the position too.
Oh, I know. So yeah, I don't really have a feel for either team. I don't want to back either team in this spot.
You can't with confidence. I mean,
yeah.
For me, this is a pure just stay away. I know Belichick against a rookie quarterback, Herbert's going to see stuff he hasn't seen before, but I just can't.
The defense isn't very good.
With what you see from these two teams, there's no way you can have confidence backing either one of these teams. And I'm honestly surprised Lynn still has a job.
I agree. And I think these are the teams that you back in a spot and when you're not backing them. Like you're playing against the other team, and I just don't feel like I'm really playing against or for either of these teams in this spot. As we move to the Chiefs, Broncos, and we are assuming that the Broncos will have their quarterbacks back. This game is in Kansas City. The Chiefs are a 14-point favorite. The total in this one is 50. I think it's up to 51, between 50 and 51, depending on where you look. Denver is 4-7, 6-5 against the spread. Kansas City 10-1, 6-5 against the spread. What's important for both Kansas City and Pittsburgh in the situation this year is that, Pittsburgh can't really play it safe because they've got Kansas City chasing them, and both of these teams want to be the number one seed and get that bye because there's only going to be one team in each conference that gets the bye this year. So I don't. And I don't know what to do with Denver coming off of with their quarterbacks. I would 100% be leaning on the Denver side, especially at 14. If it got up to 14.5, that's just a ton. But we're gonna have to see what happens with this team. And they just got their doors blown off last week. It's just this is a situation where I would play the Denver side. I just don't think I could lean KC at 14.
I mean, I was surprised Fangio and Shermer, like I said earlier, still have a job. If I was Elway, I would be livid. Especially Shermer back in the day had a whole game where he basically ran Wildcat. So he has it in him. I mean, that was just pure laziness, them mailing it in. I would be just absolutely livid. But like you said earlier, we as people remember the last thing we saw. We saw them get crushed by
Hilton,
the Saints.
Poor kid throwing 1 for 9 and just running all over the place. Remember, this isn't going to be him. This isn't going to be them.
Locke's going to be in there. He's shown he can make throws, and I think he's going to have a little bit of a chip on his shoulder because he is getting caught out in the media. I've been the biggest Drew Lock supporter, but for him to not play in the game because he's not being responsible and wearing a mask shows how immature he actually is. And I'm starting to back off of him. And the Chiefs are overvalued, not really overvalued because they are a great team, but they just did beat the Buccaneers at Tampa Bay. Everyone watching, Tyreek went off.
Yep.
14 in
that's a lot.
In an interdivisional game.
That's a key
this
too.
Is the second game they played against each other. I mean,
Denver's defense is still good. They're good enough to slow Kansas City down enough for this to be a 17-point game and Denver can score late.
I mean, I know what the way I bet. Like right now, the first half line is at 7. If it's at 7 or over, I'm definitely going to be on the Broncos. And I'm probably going to be on the Broncos for the full game too, just because it's second game, interdivisional game. Broncos defense is better than people realize. They can get to the quarterback. And Locke can throw over the top. And KC's DBs have a little trouble, as Derek Carr has exposed, defending the deep ball.
Yeah, I'm more Denver side, no doubt about it. 4-7, 6-5 against the spread. KC 10-1, 6-5 against the spread. As we move along that was your Sunday night game. This week we're going to have 2 Monday games and then a Tuesday game. So the Monday games isn't it funny too? Like Pittsburgh got screwed a little bit here because they had to play Wednesday and they're playing Monday, so not a normal week. And it wasn't really their fault what happened because it was the Ravens players and the Ravens that didn't really follow protocols and they got pushed back. It stinks when the team like Pittsburgh, who didn't, like this happened earlier in the year with the Bills. The Bills got screwed because the Titans game, and they kept pushing the Titans back, and then the Bills had to play the Titans later in the week, and then they had to play Kansas City, and both of those games got bumped. So I don't know if this is going to be the easiest spot for Pittsburgh here with a good defense from Washington. Pittsburgh on a weird short week with all this stuff happening for them. They just played on a Wednesday. Now they're playing on a Monday early in the day. It's going to be a 5 Eastern game here. Another situation where like they've got that undefeated thing going where we see this happen to teams once you get to like 7-8 where like anybody can take you to the limit. And, because it's like you're supposed to lose at some point. It doesn't really matter to who. I don't know if they're going to lose this game, but it's kind of like the situations we talked about with some of these other big favorites. I don't know if Pittsburgh cares winning this game by 10. I do feel like you may have lost a little bit of value in it if you wanted to play Washington because you probably could have got a better number before than you'll get now. Total in this is 42.5. I don't think I could play the Pittsburgh side in here.
I am going to call it right now. Steelers are losing this game straight up.
Yeah, it kind of feels like it, right?
They just beat the Ravens. I mean, big rivalry game. Also, I mean, they basically have locked up the North unless something crazy happens. And also, you have to remember, who do they have next week? They have the Bills. The Bills were the team that knocked them out of the playoffs in that Sunday night game last year. So this is a great spot to catch a Pittsburgh team in a flat situation. Now you look at Washington. What does Washington do best? It's their defensive line and getting to the quarterback, wreaking havoc and creating pressure. The Steelers, they have offensive line issues, and Pouncey is not going to be playing this game. And Pouncey is the key to that offensive line. So that is a huge matchup advantage for the Washington football team. And Alex Smith, he's a game manager. He's not going to make dumb throws.
Yeah.
He's going to manage the game. He's not going to turn over the ball. Antonio Gibson is getting it going. He's looking a lot better running. You got J.D. McKisson out of the backfield catching it. They play both of them at the same time. And then you got the two Sims, they're not brothers, but the two Sims kids. And you got Scary Terry. I mean, they got weapons offense.
They're set up. Yeah, they are.
I mean, I legitimately think Washington is going to go into Pittsburgh and they're going to win this game straight up. I'm going to take them plus the 8.5. There's no money line on any of my books yet, but I'm going to be invested in the money line too.
Oh, over under 42.5 I'm seeing. I think it keeps going down. It's going down right now. It was a little higher earlier in the week. So you might be able to find a different fluctuation of numbers on that one. Washington 4-7, 6-5 against the spread. The Steelers 11-0 and 8-3 against the spread as we move to our final two games. So this is the actual Monday night game. It's Buffalo versus the 49ers. But if there wasn't enough crazy COVID stuff happening last week, Eric, we've got the 49ers now that aren't even allowed to play in their home stadium.
No.
They're having to move to Arizona to play their home games there recently for the near future. And if for some reason San Francisco were to get hot and they're not too far out of the playoffs, they would probably not be able to have a playoff. They would probably not be able to go home for a while because before they come back to California, they're going to have to quarantine. So they're basically just like out on the road in Arizona and then traveling to wherever they go. It would be a really strange situation if they and the Cardinals made the playoffs or if they, I mean, it's just a lot to think about.
Yeah. I mean, but that's with this season, it's basically like whichever team can adapt. And I think the 49ers, like their defensive coordinator, I'm spacing his name. Yeah, I mean, you hear nothing about good things about this guy. And also, like, they are missing Bosa, and this defense is incredible. So, I mean, he's able to coach and lead these games. So I think with the defense, they're going to be able to stay in games that they shouldn't have. Offensively, I mean, you know, they're lacking the most important position, the quarterback. But in terms of this game, this is one of the situations where you just can't outthink the room. You have the Bills. The Bills, they play the Steelers next week. Huge look-ahead spot. What do the Bills struggle with? Defending the run. 26th worst defense versus the run. What is the 49ers' strength? Running the ball. I mean, this is strength against weakness. So in my eyes, I'm going to trust that Salem's going to be able to put up a defensive scheme that's going to keep Diggs in check, force Allen to make passes. Yeah, force Allen to make passes because he's a good runner, but he's not that good of a passer. And then just pound the ball with the run. This Bills team reminds me of that 2015 Carolina Panthers team with Cam Newton, where you kind of had the blueprint to beat them. They just won all these close games, and then, they can be exposed easily, if that makes sense.
Yeah, Brown is a key for them too. Like, you don't think of like John Brown as being like a difference maker, but keep an eye on him is because when they miss him, it's just they have the pieces all set up nicely, and when they're missing one or two of their pieces, they're not good enough to have that margin of error. So this is
to go on that, what you're saying, and which I totally agree with, is that means Cole Beasley gets bumped up from the slot to the outside, the two.
Where he's much better in the slot.
Yeah, but that means, like, when you get bumped up like that, you're not going to be facing the slot corner.
Mm-hmm.
You're facing the team's number 2 corner.
Or you ain't getting open.
Yeah, and some corners, like, they just play sides. So there's going to be some formation where you're facing the top corner on the team. So immediately everyone's like, oh, Cole Beasley in fantasy. Well, he's going to be playing against better cover people. So actually his value is decreasing.
The line in this game has been moving quite a bit. I think it's at San Francisco. It's at like a pick'em or so right now. Yeah, it's at a
pick'em right now in my book.
This has moved for just a couple points in the last couple days or so. So the money is moving towards San Francisco, 5-6 against the spread. Bills 8-3, 6-5 against the spread. We move to the final game on week 13, and this game is going to go on Tuesday. We have, I think we have a lineup now for it. It was I'm seeing 7. Baltimore around 7 or so. The over-unders aren't up, and we don't have to really spend a whole lot of time on this game on the numbers, but more so on just the teams. Dallas is 3-8, 2-9 against the spread. Baltimore 6-5, 5-6 against the spread. Baltimore coming off of a game where they actually played really well without Lamar, without a lot of their pieces in a rivalry game that went back and forth. And I mean, Baltimore right now is not in the playoff picture, but if you look at their schedule, they have a pretty soft schedule coming up over the next few weeks. They can easily get right back into it. This is a game that I'm, especially this early on when we're talking about it on Thursday with a few days to come and all the COVID stuff with Baltimore, I don't really have an opinion one way or the other, but a situation where I wouldn't want to be laying more than a touchdown on a team who's not really been firing on all cylinders throughout the year and now has the COVID stuff to deal with. Dallas, I don't really love in this spot either, but I don't know. I just not a whole lot for me on this game.
I mean, first of all, this was the first future this year I cashed was Ravens under 11.5. So that was,
you were all over that.
So that was big. Their back's against the wall. They can't lose another game. Anything over 7, in my head, it's a buy. You may be able to get some value if Lamar doesn't play, because you have to remember, football's won in the trenches. Dallas has some key injuries at the offensive line. With the offensive line like that, they're not opening up the holes for Zeke, and Zeke is way less explosive and not finding any holes at all and not bursting through the running lane. And Dalton just can't process stuff as fast as he used to. And the Ravens are going to force some turnovers. I mean, even if Trace McSorley starts, which is a possibility because Griffin got banged up a little bit and Lamar, God only knows with his COVID stuff if he's going to play or not. I mean, if Trace plays and this number gets down to a 4 or a 5, I would easily take it with Baltimore.
Week 13 in the NFL. Let's kind of recap it. Some of the games that I'm looking at, I'm looking at the Lions. If you can get, especially plus 3.5, that's the number. But 3 is fine. I thought like the Falcons, it's similar. 3 is that key number for me there. If I can get the Falcons plus the 3, I'll take it. I'm probably going to go to the Jets if I can get around like at 9, probably maybe at 10. The Browns is my game of the week, and I think you and I are both really high on that one. I love the Browns, so look for the best number you can find for the Browns, and I definitely play that money line, and I'm fine with playing those first 2, Atlanta and Lions, a little money line too. I'm looking at the Jags plus 10.5, and those are the ones I'm the most intrigued by early on.
I like Lions Falcons, Eagles, Browns by far is the top one, and the Washington football team.
Yeah, I'll give a look to the Broncos, too, if that number stays around 14, and if we know Locke's back, and it might even go up more. People, I don't know who later in the week is going to be playing Denver. People just love to play the chalk with Kansas City, so that could go up
especially because it's a Sunday night game.
Yeah, you're right. And end of the day, late in the day, it moves even more, so everybody trying to get even, and they want to get even with the chalk there. So, Erik, man, this was awesome. A ton of fun, like always. So let everybody know out there where we can find you. You do a great job with your podcast. You're a great follow on social media, Twitter, Instagram, where you're posting with stuff, information while you're following the games that you bet. You're posting a lot of your plays here and there. You're posting just sports information. Every day you'll post the 5 things or things that you noticed from the day before, or important things going on in the world of sports. Let everybody know, where can we follow you out there?
You can follow me at etoff21sports on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. I have a website, etoff21. I'll put out my power rankings, write little blog pieces, and then my podcast comes out Monday and Saturdays.
Crazy that we're already on to week 13 of the NFL. Thank you, though, a bunch, man. I had you on a little, last year and some years, but this year definitely feel like we've gotten a lot closer. You've helped out a ton in so many different ways, and all the listeners are always very happy when you're on because you help them make some money. So thanks again, buddy.
Oh, anytime you need me, just let me know, man. Always a pleasure to come on.
You know how to follow him out there on social media. Do not go anywhere, folks. We have plenty left on this episode of That's What G Said. Great stuff from Erik, as always. Make sure to give a follow to him on social media. Check out his podcast, and real sharp gambler, real sharp handicapper there. We're going to have him back quite often on That's What G Said. Holiday season is upon us, folks. We are looking around, trying to find gifts for everyone. I got the perfect gift for you. A candle. CeraCandles.com, CERA candles.com. And these aren't just any candle. These are all natural soy wax candles. They're better for you. None of those toxins, those carcinogens, those pollutants that are found in all of the other leading brands that use that different wax, not the soy wax, which is much better for you. This is a local small business that loves candles. They wanted to create the perfect candle, family that I've known for 25 plus years. Now, they actually will set it up for you perfectly. They have the holiday candle box. In the holiday candle box, for $20, you get one 5-ounce Christmas morning candle that's festive green, one 5-ounce cranberry Christmas candle that's vibrant red, and these are those soy wax candles. They're better for you. They're going to burn longer, estimated 20 to 30 hours burning. They even give you instructions on how to keep your candle clean and make sure you have the perfect burn. And when you use the promo code GINO, 10% off your purchase here. They have 25 different scents. Maybe you don't want a holiday scent, or maybe you want a holiday scent for the next couple weeks, the next month or two, and then you want a different scent for some of the different family members you're going to purchase for. 25 different options, 3 different sizes, seasonal scent, scent for any mood, any time. I love the Fresh Roses one myself. Promo code GINO gets you 10% off your purchase. If you love candles and you're listening to this, or maybe your wife or your husband or your friend or someone you know loves candles, direct them to Cera Candles. Have them try these just one time. I promise they will get Cera Candles every time. They are not the type of candle that punches you in the face with the scent. It's strong enough, but it's not overpowering, and it's a better, longer burn and a healthier burn. CeraCandles.com, CERA Candles.com, promo code GINO gets you 10% off your purchase. Let's get into some horse racing for the weekend, and what is the schedule for Stable Duel. For those of us who love to play in these Stable Duel contests, they are daily horse racing contests that you can get involved in for as little as $5 and all the way up to big contests that they have for $100 is usually the max. This weekend, so many different options. So what you have to do first, go download the Stable Duel app on your phone, on your iPad, and create your stable, and then you can get involved in different contests. All you have to do to create a stable is really create a name, a stable name. So Friday, they have a contest at Tampa. It's a $25 entry. It's a triple up, and there's a $100 bonus to the winner. There's a $10 contest at Laurel Park. There's a $50 Gulfstream Park contest. It's the Gulfstream Kickoff Series. This is opening week at Gulfstream. So Stable Duel will put 50% of this Friday pool, along with pools from Wednesday and Thursday, into the game for Saturday. If you win this Gulfstream Friday contest, you also get a $100 game credit for Saturday, which means you're getting free entry into the Saturday contest. So on Saturday, the big one is the $100 Gulfstream contest with 50% matched from the pools earlier in the week. Going to be a massive pool. If you don't want to get involved in that, maybe the $100 entry is a little bit too much for that one because it's $100. There's a $5 contest at Charlestown. There's a $10 Laurel triple up and a $25 Tampa top 10. Then on Sunday, there's a $10 Gulfstream. There's a $50 Gulfstream triple up with a $100 bonus to the winner, and there's a free contest at Laurel. So maybe you're thinking, I've heard about this, but I've never played. I don't know. I don't want to spend a whole lot of money. Okay, you don't have to. There's a free contest on Sunday at Laurel. So handicap over the weekend for that Sunday contest, the free contest, and you can give it a try, see if you like it, see if it's something worth putting some money into. I promise you, it is. So just this weekend alone, Tampa, Laurel, Gulfstream, Penn National, Charlestown. Free contest from 5 all the way up to 100. We've got triple ups, we've got top 10s, we've got regular formatted contest, and a free ride. Not more of a variety possible than what you're getting offered there from Stable Duel. And so let's get into the weekend, and let's get into Friday at Gulfstream Park. I'm going to roll through the Friday Gulfstream card, kind of give you some thoughts on each race as we move through. Some horses that I would be interested in using in Stable Duel, other horses who I'm playing against. In race number 1, I'm looking to the 10 Compiler. I think he'll get bet down a little bit for Wesley Ward. This guy was bumped around on both sides at the start in his most recent race, and he got up to second to press before faltering. That was going a mile on the turf. Now he's going to come back to 5 furlongs. He takes another little drop in class, and he puts 2 starts together for the first time. So you're going second off the bench, drops, cutting back, not facing a tough group. Comes out of a race where he had some trouble. He's really had trouble early in both, but he can sit, and he has enough tactical speed, I think, to stay close in here. And he just comes out of a productive race with the runner-up winning next out. Compiler, make sure to throw him in the early pick 5. I will use him in some Stable Duel spots. The 7 Champion Up, damn one on the turf, and you just don't have to be a monster to beat a group like this for a barn that's capable first time out of the box. The 4 Market Development has a winning turf Sib and is a half to a horse named Sueño. Not a bad little pedigree for just a 25 maiden claimer here in the opener at Gulfstream. I like the 10, 7, 4 in race number 1 for me. Moving on to race number 2, I gave a look in here to the 11 Rich's Rags. We really don't know how good he is. I just feel like he's a lot better than what he's shown us so far. On October the 24th at Gulfstream West, he broke right on top. He pressed from the 2 path, and then he was in between horses. He pulled right up on even terms with El Gran Pichon, and then he faded. That was Rich's Rags' first start since August 23rd of 2019. So it had been 14 months for Rich's Rags since he had run. He showed some speed. He faded that day. I think the outside draw will give him a little more of an opportunity to press and sit off. I don't think he's a need the lead type horse. And honestly, this is not a strong group. If he's got any bit of the ability that he had once had that made him a $285,000 purchase, and if he's got anything left at all, even with the speed he just showed, this is probably going to be the best race we get from him. So we'll find out the best race that we've seen from him right here with Rich's Rags. So we'll find out, I think, pretty early. He doesn't have to be on the lead, but if he's well out of it, we're probably in some trouble. I'm just expecting a really good effort from Rich's Rags way outside today. Gulfstream Park, race number 3, 7.5 furlongs on the turf course in here. Cherokee Sound is a lot better than her last 2 would represent. I think she's a horse you want to use in some of your exotics. Cactus Kitten is very obvious. Antigone getting back to the grass. Galileo's Ballerina is another in here I would look at. So a lot of different directions you could go in race number 3 at Gulfstream Park. In the 4th race, I give a look to the 7, Uncaptured King in here. So he drew the rail last time out. Completely missed the break. Then he was in tight immediately. He was shuffled. He was in a bad spot, and he came running late. He gets off the rail. He cuts back, and he catches a lot of early pace in here. I think this is going to set up really nicely for him to sit off the pace, take back, make one late run. You get Cairo Campaign to the inside with some speed. Dream Dioro's got a little pace. One fast is going to go. Bon Prix probably wants to go. So I'm going to go Uncaptured King on top. I'll use the 7. And then the 5, Bon Prix, we'll be using along with in all of the exotics. We're up to race number 5 now, and I'm going to go take a look at the 5. Pearlescent. So she's a lightly raced 3-year-old, and she has faced better in all 3 of her career starts. She hooked a loaded group in her career debut in a race that produced 3 next out winners. Sweet Melania is a multiple graded stakes winner. Actually, she wasn't a next out winner, but she's a multiple graded stakes winner, and she was 3rd in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies Turf. Morning Gold won next out of there, and Lucky Jingle is stakes placed, won out of that race, and has come back to be stakes placed. Pearlescent faced maiden special weights in that race at Saratoga and was only 4-1. Came back at Gulfstream Park, faced maiden specials. And then last time out, switches barns, hooks a sloppy racetrack in September. We really don't know much about her at all. And she's at maiden 20 now. She gets back to the grass. Her debut race on the grass when finishing 4th was not bad. We just really don't know how good she is. If she has any of that form left at all, she's going to be right there with this group. And she should offer you a very nice value. I think she's the type of horse who will probably get bet down. So she's a great horse at a really big price to use in a stable duel situation because at 15-1, she costs you nothing to use. So Pearlescent. The 6 truly super logical horse that you're probably going to be wanting to use along with in some of your pick 5s. The 11 Camellia Gal also. That's why this race feels kind of prime to take a swing. You have some horses who are consistent at the level, but they've shown they don't really want to win. They don't have that killer win instinct. Take a little swing here with Pearlescent. Anything around like 6-1 or so seems fair. So for me, that line is a little bit off. In race number 6, I'm looking at X-Top, who just feels like the one they all have to beat in here. I'm not really telling you anything you don't know. He won the battle for second after a pretty brutal trip on November the 21st. He was squeezed back at the start. He was last early, and he had to move in between horses through traffic. He got all the way up to 3rd, and he was in the clear. But the winner had already snuck away, and the winner was a wire-to-wire winner that day. So the race shape was against X-Top with that slow beginning. I think you'll probably see him sitting a lot closer. He feels like the one they'll all have to beat in here. That's the number 8 in race number 6. That's probably a race where I don't mind spending up a little bit in a stable duel scenario. 7th race, couple horses I look at in here. The 5 Light Fury. Who goes with him early on? I just don't know if anybody has the type of speed that he has. So I think he's the one to catch in here. And I would imagine the 6 Kark is going to be sitting as close as he can possibly. The plan for Light Fury should be, let's send hard. Play come and catch me. Wire to field, sat just off going a mile, but I just don't think there's anybody else in here that should be within a length or two early on. So Light Fury will be the play for me. I'm going to use along with the number 6 in all of your exotics there. That's race number 7 at Gulfstream on Friday. We move along to race number 8. I'm looking at the 6 in here, Palladio, who was just drawn well to sit a great trip. The Warriors Pride's got some speed. Carson City Kid's got some speed. The Ice Beast, I'd imagine, is going to be at least pressing close to it. And Tiger's got speed. Feels like it should set up very nicely for Palladio to just track off of the speeds in here. In race number 9, this is the one that feels like you can go in many directions. You kind of have the 5 and the 1 are the proven multiple winning horses that are the veteran types that are the ones they'll have to beat. But I think there are a couple with some upside here that may be more intriguing horses to bet, like the 2 Threshold, who is lightly raced with some upside. He has legitimate excuses for his 3 poor performances. You give a look to Maya Manoy, the 8. Look at some of his losses. Proven strategies, field pass, instructor. That's top-notch company. Jolting Joe feels like he's just coming out of some of the best races, and he's going to be really tough in here on just a class perspective. So I have 2, 4, and 8 as the horses I'm most interested in playing. The 1 and the 5 are very logical. I probably won't completely dismiss them from all of the exotics, but there are a couple horses I liked a little more in the 2, 4, and 8 than feel like you get a little more upside with them. Moving on to the 10th race for Friday, it is the 4 for me, Super Jaguar. Just another case, another instance of who goes with this horse early. On paper, there is just nobody that's even close to as fast as him. He didn't get the lead last time out. They went way quicker than they'll have to go to a half mile here. Last time we saw him win, he wired a group on the dirt. He's not a monster. He's not a win machine. This is sort of what happens with his running style. He's, quick and fade. If he can just settle down and relax a little bit. Now he's entering a new barn who's excellent with small numbers and some limited numbers with their new acquisitions, though. Barn's been rolling along through 2020. The 4 Super Jaguar is the play for me. I'm also going to be using the 12. Some of the exotics, let's play hardball. That's the one to beat, So as far as Exactas tries supers, it's hard to keep him out of the mix. The number 8, Spinning Kitten, he's on the upswing, right? He's on the improve, and I think he won't have any issue when they get late here. Can he stay within range? The 5, another one I'll probably throw into some exotics. 4, 12, 8 for me. 4, 12, 8, 5 is how I have them stacked for race number 10 at Gulfstream Park. So that's your Gulfstream Park Friday. Remember to get involved in the stable duel contest in the Gulfstream Park kickoff series. That Gulfstream entry fee for Friday is $50, and stable duel is going to match 50% of the pool and add that to Saturday's pool. The winner will also get a $100 game credit for Saturday. So not only do you win the prize money for this contest, you're also getting the $100 game credit. So you get a free roll for Saturday along with your winnings. Let's get to Aqueduct for Friday. 3 best plays for Friday over at Aqueduct, and a couple of them are going to come early on in the card. We right away look at the deuce in here, Gray Hayes. This is a soft group, and everybody else is coming out of races that are not great. Gray Hayes' races at Penn and Delaware, yeah, they may not be against the best, but they're much better races. She's got the running style where she doesn't have to be too far out of it from down inside. She's got speed. She can track just off. I think she's a must-use in your early pick 5s. You're going to get a little more value on her because she's coming in from Penn and from Delaware, and people will look at those circuits and think, they won't be able to keep up with this group. But this group is not a strong group. It's a 25 non-2, and we don't have horses that are in the best form. I mean, just a quick run through. Left-leaning Lucy just got beaten by 16 lengths last time out. Charlotte Webley was beaten by 13. Trapped in My Mind was defeated by 20-plus lengths last time out. Homedale Park, in running second, was beaten 11-plus lengths last out. Manny Petty was beaten 18. You do have a couple horses coming off of maiden wins. One of them was at Finger Lakes. And this is a nice spot for Gray Hayes, the number 2. Make sure to throw her into your early pick 5. Let's make a win wager if we can get, I think, around 5-2 or so. In race number 2, the 7, Why She Do That, debuted on November the 13th. It was a race that was rained off the grass, and it ended up being a sloppy racetrack, and she just didn't run well that day. And that's fine. You have a legitimate excuse because it was a sloppy track. She has 2 winning turf sibs, so she should enjoy getting the opportunity to jump on the grass. And this is a good second time out barn. If she can sit off, she should have some pace to chase in here. Why She Do. Number 7 in race number 2, anything around 4-1 or so feels fair on Why She Do That. Now, keep in mind the weather this weekend over at Aqueduct is probably not going to be great. So if this race, it has an opportunity to get taken off of the grass. I didn't want to do a bunch of turf races for that reason, but felt like we would give you one there. And we move to race number 9 for our final play on Aqueduct Friday card. And I'm going to be talking about the number 8, Tom's Choice. A little bit of a bomb here to take a swing with. This was the only horse in this race who has shown any bit of speed. Now, does that mean some of these horses won't be sent hard or asked more aggressively? No. But for the price that he is in a really, really weak maiden 40 New York bred race, he's stretching out to a mile, and he's actually showed speed going 5.5 furlongs on the turf and going 5 furlongs on the dirt, a little tactical speed. The game plan has to be send hard. When you've shown a little bit of speed sprinting, you look at this field and you see there is no other pace in here. I wouldn't want to be playing a pick 4, pick 5, and be closing this race without a horse like this who could have a couple lengths on the field. So if you're playing late pick 4s, late pick 5s, anything like that, throw the 8, Tom's Choice, onto your tickets. The 4 and the 9, super logical horses in here. Others that I would be including in the exotics, but the 8, Tom's Choice, throw him in the mix there, race number 9 at Aqueduct. So Friday, Aqueduct, 3 plays for me. Race number 1, the 2, Gray Haze. Race number 2, the 7, Why She Do That. Race number 9, the 8, Tom's Choice. Anything around 10-1 on Tom, we'll make a win wager there and use him along with the 4 and the 9. Let's get you to Saturday racing over at Gulfstream Park. Get those past performances out for December the 5th. And remember that big stable duel Saturday contest at Gulfstream Park. $100 entry fee. And it's going to be a big pool with some money carried over from the earlier pools throughout the week. So even if you're just going to play one big contest this weekend, this is the one that you want to play on Saturday. In race number 1, maiden special weights on the turf, it's Claiming Crown Day. So it's not your typical Gulfstream weekend card in that you're going to have a lot of claiming type horses or horses who are stepping up the ranks and have been in the claiming ranks at one point over the last couple years. Then there's a couple maiden special weight races. In the opener, I like the 12, Queen of the Green. If you just toss her race last time out, which was a race that got taken off the turf, she lost to a horse named Princess Theorem, who came back and tried the Golden Rod, so that's how good Princess Theorem was. In Queen of the Green, her debut, she got hooked 5 wide going into the turn. She settled 7th mid-pack, about 5 lengths off. She was too deep, and she waited. She angled out widest of all. She had to slightly wait before doing so. She was a really nice second that day. I think if she's anything around 7-2 or so, worthy of making a win wager on the number 12 in race number 1, Queen of the Green. Let's move along to race number 2. This is the Glass Slipper. They'll go a mile in here. I'm looking at the 6, Sky Chaser. Sky Chaser, last race on October the 11th at Gulfstream Park West, was behind a horse named Gibberish. Gibberish has won 3 in a row. Gibberish just won the $100,000 treasure chest over at Delta Downs. And Sky Chaser actually ran really well. She had a good start, and then she sat pretty nicely, maybe third, about 4 or 5 lengths off the pace. She was behind the top 2. She moved inside up to second and to challenge in between horses, and she battled in between nicely all the way. I think Sky Chaser has a major, major shot in here. The number 6 is, for me, the one to beat in race number 2 at Gulfstream on Saturday. I thought the third race was interesting. There are many horses you can make a case for in here, many that are alive. The Chat Brown wouldn't be a shock. Voter Protection, Easton Rocks, the first-timer for Pletcher, would be no surprise in here. You get to the outside, Fighting Force showed some ability. I thought the 10 with the blinkers coming on today is another one who could show some improvement. But I'm most interested in the 1, Conrad the Red. So he debuted on October the 21st at Gulfstream Park West. It was a race that was taken off the grass. It was in the slop, and he did not run that bad. He had a slow start down on the inside. He moved up in between horses. He was in tight. It's never easy. That's not an easy trip. First time out and in the slop. Now you add the blinkers. This guy has had 4 siblings to race. One of them is a winner on the turf. The Dam was 4 for 6. She never tried the turf, but she won on the synthetic and the dirt. She was graded stakes placed and a stakes winner. This guy's been working on the grass. I'm expecting a big effort from Conrad the Red, the number 1. I'll make a win wager if we can get around 4-1 or so on Conrad the Red in race number 3 at Gulfstream on Saturday. We turn the page to the 4th race. It is the Express. I'm looking at the 7 in here, combination. Now, Christo Sky, totally respect, coming out of back-to-back graded stakes races, but look at the race on July the 31st when Combination and Christo Sky faced each other. Combination was actually favored over Christo Sky. And Combination just, it's one of those races you put a line right through. It wasn't like he had a slow, not great start, but he actually recovered pretty well and was sitting in a good spot. He just didn't fire that day. He was off for a few months. He came back. He waited behind horses. He got a nice opening up the inside and won. I think Combination is in a great spot here. Take another little step forward. The number 7 Combination for me in race number 4 at Gulfstream Park as we move to race number 5. A couple that I look at. The 3, Sweet Yar Indira. The 10 and the 9 would be the other 2 that I would be including. Jakarta and Thinkin' Cowtown. The 9, Thinkin' Cowtown, is last year's winner, so a horse who hasn't been in the winner's circle since that race and has had some issues to deal with this year. The 3, Sweet Yar Indira, put a line through the August 27th race, and look at how good the form is then, and really key off those races going 5 on the grass up at Woodbine. Number 3, the play for me in race number 5, using along with the 9 and the 10. In the 6th race, the 2, Jesus' Team. Just got to give a shout out to this guy. This was a $25,000 claimer earlier in the year, who has run 4th in the Haskell, 2nd in the Pegasus Stakes, 3rd in the Grade 2 Jim Dandy, 3rd in the Grade 1 Preakness, 2nd in the Grade 1 Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. What a honest, hard-knocking horse this guy is. I look a little elsewhere in here. I think he's going to show up like he always does, but I'm going to give Dak Daniels a little shot here. Forwardly placed, going longer. Now he's going to cut back. Sisterson's just been doing a great job with him. Tossed the Ohio Derby race. This did not get a great trip that day, and you're left with a pretty consistent horse. So give me the 7, Dak Daniels, 7 to Jesus' Team if you're looking at some exotics. As we get to the Emerald in race number 7 at Gulfstream Park, it's another situation of, on paper, where is the speed in this race? I think it's Tusk. I don't know who else is quick enough to go with Tusk early. He's got the ability to sit off the pace if somebody does. And what his best running style seems best suited to win this race, whether it be right on the lead or sitting behind if somebody wants to go early and maybe take themselves out of what their best running style is. Tusk is in the mix on top for me, the number 6. I give a look to horses like Temple. Hieroglyphics is super sharp. Muggs Maddock, who was last year's winner and maybe ready to take a step forward off of a prep setup for this one. But Tusk, I think, has the pace and the tactical advantage in race number 7 at Gulfstream Park. As we move to race number 8, the Rapid Transit, I like the one Avant Garde. I just think the line in this one is a little bit off in here, as Avant Garde is really sharp, likes Gulfstream. The concern with me is the rail draw cutting back to 7 furlongs, but he should be able to take back, and I don't think he's going to be so close to where he's going to end up getting the shuffle in here. So I'll use the 1 and the 5 in all exotics. The 1 is probably going to get bet down. I mentioned some of these horses because in Stable Duel, the contests are all based off of the morning lines. So when you're playing Stable Duel contest, what you are looking for is horses that you think are going to be getting bet down, that you think have a chance. Because if there's a horse that's 10-1 that you say, no way, they're going to be bet down to 5-1 or even less than that, that's who you want, because you're getting a 5-1 shot instead of a 10-1 shot. And I think Avant Garde will take some money in this 8th. 1-5 for me in race number 8. Moving along to the Tiara, and I will go towards the outside in here with the 10 and the 11. Irony of Reality and Sugar Fix. Sugar Fix is probably going to be the one they'll have to get by with her running style and coming out of some of the stronger races. I mean, she's faced Graded Stakes Company in 2 of the last 3. The race looks like Djibouti Kaba is going to show a little bit of speed, and I think Sugar Fix should be able to sit behind. Irony of Reality is sort of interesting. So she was on the synthetic last time out, a good second against Stakes Company. You can put a line through the race 2 back at Pimlico in a race that was taken off the turf, and her turf form is not bad. Her synthetic form is a little bit better. I think after Sugar Fix, I think she's the next one, and she would be a horse who I'm playing to win if I can get anything over 5-1. Irony of Reality, 10-11 for me in race number 9 at Gulfstream Park. Moving to the 10th. This is the 5 furlong turf. The one Faya is super quick, really nice form, has won 4 in a row, but I always have some concern with a horse like this who draws the rail in a sprint race where you know there's going to be some other speed early on. So I won't completely dismiss Faya from the exotics, but I'm going to be using along with Belgrano, who I feel like will just sit a perfect trip from off the pace in here with enough speed to push Faya early on. So 8-1 for me, race number 10 at Gulfstream Park. Those are the 2 I'm using in your exotics. And then in race number 11, no real strong opinion. I thought Snap Hook was one to include if you're playing pick 4s and pick 5s. Probably deal-driven Bobby G will be in the mix for me. I'm okay playing against Froster Frippery, who is, he's probably the most consistent in here, but he takes a ton of money, and he just was not good last time out. So a Saturday fun Claiming Crown card at Gulfstream Park. Remember to get involved in the big stable duel contest on Saturday. Over at Aqueduct, there are 4 graded stakes races, and honestly, on paper, when you look at them at first glance, they don't look that good. I think we can find some vulnerable favorites, so let's get the past performances out for Aqueduct Saturday. Again, just keep in mind that it's supposed to be pretty wet all weekend at Aqueduct, so I'm using horses not because of it, but horses that I think would be fine if it was sloppy too. And then just make sure, upgrade if it's absolutely pouring out there, and if you've seen the racetrack play, start a certain way in the first few races, then come race number 4, the Grade 2 Remsen on Saturday, you'll know, if maybe you want to upgrade 10 for 10 a little bit, who on paper he's probably lone speed, but he was lone speed last time out, and Pick and Time ran right by him. I mean, right on the square. And I think he might get forgotten about a little bit. Known Agenda is going to take some money, and 10 for 10 will take some money, and Pick and Time should be able to save all the ground in here. He has one poor performance, and it was in the Saratoga Special against Jackie's Warrior. He was off a little bit slow, and you're off slow against a horse like Jackie's Warrior, and you're just in trouble. Pick and Time. Known Agenda dug in and battled the length of the stretch. He's fine. Table for 10 would be no shock if he gets the lead. Brooklyn Strong's fine. There's no monsters in here. Just give me Pick and Time, sitting off the pace and just picking them off again. Number 1, Pick and Time in the Grade 2 Remsen. Let's move to race number 6 for our next taste of graded stakes action. We're going to be looking at the Grade 3 Go for a Wand, and we'll have a heavy favorite from the inside of Nona Madeline. Sharp Star is going to take money also. But I don't know what to do with Sharp Star, a horse who had been fine and threw in a buyer speed figure of 101 last time out. Absolutely freaking. What do you do? I mean, she comes back to that race or anything close to that race, she probably wins this. She's going to be very tough. If she runs more back to the form prior to that race, that's not good enough to beat this group. So I'm not using her. I would prefer Nona Madeline, who to me feels like she's no doubt the one to beat. I don't really love the rail, but she should be able to settle with a couple, maybe 2 other speeds in here and sit behind them. I like Graceful Princess with the blinkers coming off. I think with the outside draw and the blinkers coming off, Joelle jumping aboard, they will have her sit a little bit more. And if that happens, there are versions of this race where Portal Creek shows some speed, and Nona Mandolin shows some speed, and Graceful Princess sits the trip right behind them. Can she really sit, though? Even the sort of the trip that she had at Gulfstream back in April, but they were going quicker that day. I'm just hoping now, blinkers off, outside draw, take her off the pace a little bit. The number 6, Graceful Princess, I will use along with Nona Mandolin in race 6, the grade 3 Go for Wand. We head to race number 9, the grade 2 Demoiselle. Mile and an eighth for these 2-year-old fillies. Mala Thought, 2 for 2 for Todd Pletcher, stakes winner from the inside. She's going to be very tough. But if she gets beat, it is probably because Traffic Lane and others in here were pushing her early. Cara Mocha's got some speed. Cafe Society wouldn't be a shock. There's at least a couple that can make it difficult on Malahat down inside. Now, she might be able to sit fine. Maybe she's just better than this group. $1 million purchase. First foal from Dreaming of Julia. Monster pedigree. Everything you like. But she's going to take a ton of money. I was really impressed with Milfu, the number 3. So, she's a runner-up in her debut going a mile. Career start number 2, she comes back. She settles last on the inside, but she's only a couple lengths off in a small field. Field of 5, she's only about 3 lengths off or so at the most. And she moves up into a really tight spot on the inside. She's on the heels of Arrival. So what happens? She gets that shuffled back spot on the inside where she has to lose a couple lengths, waiting, loaded with nowhere to go. Gets a great opening in the 2-path, explodes like a total professional, and draws off. She has some ability, and she's in good hands with Mott and Rosario. Milfu sitting just off and trying to run down Malthat late. That's at least the trip I'm envisioning for the number 3, Milfu. Let's get you to race number 10. It's the Cigar Mile here, and Performer is very logical. He's 5 for 6. He's the one to beat, graded stakes winner. This is a weak renewal of the Cigar Mile. And I'm going to look for a bomb in here with the number 3, Snapper Sinclair, who is 20 to 1 on the morning line. And if you can get anything around 10 to 1, I'm going to make a win wager on him. His last 2 races are fine they're on the grass. And if you look, he's facing Flavius and Ivar. Those are graded stakes horses on the grass. His dirt form is not bad at all. Snapper Sinclair was 4th in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile in 2019. He actually has wet track for him too. He can run on a wet track. You see the wet track victory. From a class standpoint, even look at the races he was on the dirt prior to that. You're talking about Owendale and Tom's D. Tot. That's a better group than this group. Snapper Sinclair, dirt ability, and the wet track form coming out of some races as far as the class is concerned that are just as good as this group. Who scares you in here? Like, just playing horses off of numbers and figures, Snapper Sinclair is right in the mix with these. I don't think the mile is the best for Forenzi Fire anymore. He just seems a little bit better going shorter. He also seems a little bit better at Belmont. And if it's raining, Forenzi Fire, they said they're probably going to scrap. They know he does not want an off track. Mr. Buff has never really been good against open company. I do think King Guillermo is really talented, but we haven't seen him run since May, and now he's going to be facing older. I wouldn't be shocked to see him run a really good 3rd in here and then take a step forward in his next start. There's ability with King Guillermo. Snapper Sinclair, number 3, going to be the play for me at anything over like 8, 10 to 1. I'll be betting him to win. We'll use Snapper Sinclair along with Performer and with King Guillermo in some of the exotics there. That's race number 10 at Aqueduct. That's the Cigar Mile. 4 graded stakes races on Saturday. Keep an eye on the weather and how horses perform on the off racetrack. Think we can beat some favorites there. In the 4th race, the 1 Pick and Time. In the 6th race, the 6 Graceful Princess. In the 9th, the 3 Milfu. And in the 10th, the 3 Snapper Sinclair. Make sure to throw them in some of your exotics. That is your weekend racing. We went through Friday Gulfstream, Friday Aqueduct Best Bets, Saturday Gulfstream Full Card, Saturday Aqueduct Best Bets. Hopefully we led you to some winners along the way. We're going to lead you to oldsmokeclothing.com right now. Old Smoke Clothing is a website for horse racing products, quality products. We're talking about t-shirts, hats, zip-ups, quality clothing, hoodies, tank tops, long sleeve, custom designs where you can pick designs, say whatever you want. You can check out the special collections, the Kentucky Derby collection, the Secretariat collection. What about the Clubhouse, which is the exclusive membership for the sport's most passionate fans? That's the Old Smoke Clubhouse, where it is a quarterly package that will be delivered to you that includes a t-shirt only available to members. You get membership perks, 20% off all the orders at oldsmokeclothing.com. For more on the Clubhouse, check out the website oldsmokeclothing.com. And here's what you get. Because you're listening to That's What G Said. When you use the promo code GINO, free shipping on your order. Free shipping on your order. Promo code GINO. Holiday season, these are great gifts. Your mom, your dad, brother, sister, anyone that you know that loves horse racing. Hey, maybe these are just a gift that you're going to wrap for yourself and put under the tree this year. You want one of the new authentic t-shirts, or maybe you're a fan of Midnight Bisou, Tis the Law, She Dares the Devil. They've got all sorts of swag with all of those horses on it. Check out the website, oldsmokeclothing.com. Promo code GINO gets you free shipping on your order. The biggest night of the short lifespan of the All Elite Wrestling Company was on Wednesday night with AEW Dynamite. Huge news coming out of that show. The return of Sting to professional wrestling and his first time ever showing up for All Elite. Kenny Omega, the new AEW champ, he's taken the belt to Impact Wrestling. What is going on? A crazy night, a really good show. Winter is coming. Alex Regla joins me. We recap everything that went on throughout the show. We talk about what we're looking forward to. AEW, about a half-hour discussion on All Elite Wrestling. Winter is coming. Well, I guess winter came as of now, and it was an AEW when normally something really big happens or there's a big show in the wrestling world. We're programmed to think that it was something that was happening in WWF, WWE. In recent years, there have been big things going on in the world of New Japan and some independent promotions, but nothing like what we've seen from All Elite Wrestling in the last year or so. To join me to talk about the big All Elite Wrestling Dynamite show that was titled Winter is Coming is a man who's going to talk some Lakers with me. You normally hear him talking about NBA, but he's a huge wrestling fan too, and a big fan of All Elite Wrestling. Alex Regla. Alex, man, what a show we're coming off last night.
Yeah, man. It's funny because when you first invited me to hop on here to talk about the show, this was, like a week before the show happened. And to say I was surprised by what happened and what occurred and everything is an understatement. That was just incredible.
We got a show that kicks off with a battle royal, good action all the way through, a huge surprise in Sting, a name that all wrestling fans know from the late 80s into the 90s into the 2000s, someone that actually moves the needle, and we can see by some of the ratings that All Elite Wrestling got last night just creeping up right around almost to the million mark. And then the way the show finishes with a title change, a really good match, and then it's like, what? They're going to Impact Wrestling? We're going to be watching Impact on Tuesday night to see what's going on? It was pretty crazy.
Yeah, I tweeted out, they somehow made me forget Sting even debuted on that show after the main event with that whole Kenny Omega thing.
You're right. It was just a huge night from top to bottom, and we'll go through it from the beginning. Let's start with Wednesday night's Dynamite and the intro package, lots of Moxley, Omega stuff. And that was the main event for the title, the AEW title that we've been building to for weeks now. Jim Ross welcomes us, and it was only 40 degrees or so outside in Jacksonville, so it was definitely cold where they were. Winter is Coming was a very fitting name for them. We got a battle royal to start, and so the way this battle royal was, the final two will be facing next week for the diamond ring. MJF, who has the diamond ring, he cut a promo with Wardlow and with Sammy. Those three are all going to be in the Battle Royal representing the Inner Circle. We saw Matt Hardy tossing Private Party and Isaiah. We saw Hangman working with the Dark Order. Sean Spears kind of messing around outside the ring. And we got a moment where JR mentions the passing of Pat Patterson. Rest in peace there. What's great about this Battle Royal, too, is you feel like there are so many things coming out of this.
Yes.
There's going to be a lot of different storylines. I mean, just in this Battle Royal alone, they've built nice stuff for the next few weeks of TV.
Yeah, I think you hit it right there. Like, I'm not a huge fan of their Battle Royals in terms of, like, the actual product. Like, I think they get kind of sloppy at times. But I think you're spot on when you can tell the company, like, strategically make sure we get storylines coming out of the Battle Royal, right? Like, they hinted at Hangman and Dark Order, which I really loved that little segment.
It was great when they caught him and they tossed him back in.
Yeah. We got that. We got the Wardlow and Miro face off. I thought that was cool as a little.
And this is the best in ring and the best Miro has looked so far.
Yeah. I've not been a big fan of the whole video game.
Me neither.
Miro.
Not at all. Because he's such a badass.
Yeah.
I felt like he would be someone that you could kind of bring over and immediately have him right up in that upper echelon in the main event picture. And he kind of feels like he's been floundering. Maybe this is going to be a way to not repackage him, but sort of remind everybody, hey, this guy is a badass.
Hopefully. And like you said, I thought this was the best presentation of him since he joined the company. Like, this is how you want to book him.
Yep.
And like when he first signed with AEW, like my first thoughts were like, yeah, just give me him versus Wardlow, him versus Archer, him versus like any big guy they got, because that's kind of the matches I love to watch.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was great coming out of it.
So towards the end, it was Miro, Jungle Boy, MJF, Wardlow, Sammy. They were all teaming up, the Inner Circle. And what ended up happening was Orange Cassidy was actually outside the ring, and the Inner Circle had not realized. Once they did, they came back. It was 3-on-1. Orange Cassidy was able to get the advantage. He was able to eliminate Sammy and eliminate Wardlow, or eliminate. Actually, MJF eliminated, helped eliminate Sammy, and Orange Cassidy was the last man in with MJF. It's going to be those two next week for the Diamond Ring, and this was kind of sort of another one of the storylines going on throughout the show about the turmoil in the Inner Circle, which we find out a little bit up next in a Kazarian Jericho match. I've announced some independent shows where Kaz was wrestling live. He is one of those guys that you just kind of forget how good he is.
Yeah.
You know, and it's because he's never really given in a single situation a big push or a big storyline to really sink his teeth into. So we don't really know him. We kind of forget about him as a character. And then he's given time. Anytime he's given time, when he's given a time like this in a match with Jericho, you forget how good he really is.
Yeah, and I think JR, like every time JR calls a Kaz match, like that's something he always brings up, just because he usually is in tag teams for the most part, and we don't really get to see him shine as a singles guy. And I remember a couple weeks back, there was a match between him and Hangman that I really, really dug. So yeah, like if that's the thing with this roster, they have so many guys like in the mid card, or even as like are in tag teams, that if you give them a chance to be singles guys, like even like a guy like Scorpio Sky, like there's guys all up and down the roster that if you just give them time, like they can produce.
Kaz had a really cool flux capacitor, and he was teasing the walls of Jericho stuff. And then MJF comes out with the white towel. Like he's going to throw in the towel. Sammy then comes out and fights off MJF. He does not want him to throw in the towel for Jericho. Kaz with a few more quick near falls, but then Jericho hits the Judas effect elbow for the win. And after the match, Chris Jericho gives the Inner Circle, he talks to them and says, next week it's going to be an ultimatum, which these segments they've had, whether it be the Vegas segment, the town hall stuff, the debate stuff, the dinner with MJF and Jericho, I think they're just finding more ways they can do these segments with them, because they've been pretty gold every time they've done something like this.
Yeah, have you guessed or like predicted, what do you think like the eventual outcome of this is going to be? Do you think MJF turns on them? Do you think how do you think this pays off?
Yeah, I mean that's a very good question, because you'd assume, I mean, he's going to turn on them, but it's weird when they're both heels, because there's nobody really that's the babyface, but they're kind of the cool heels that everybody's rooting for. So you sort of wonder, is this a way to babyface Chris Jericho? Does MJF take the Inner Circle from Jericho?
Yeah.
Is that something that could happen? And he's the new leader of the Inner Circle and he kicks Jericho out? I don't know. Do you have any predictions?
I think just one prediction that's not of that caliber. I think Sammy is going to babyface turn here.
Sure.
We saw in the Battle Royal, there's just this incredible sequence between him and Jungle Boy. And there's a week or two back when they tagged Sammy with someone else, and he had this babyface hot tag. You can see he has the makings of it. And just this whole stuff with him and MJF, I definitely think that's something that's going to come out of it.
If he's elevated, I would love it. He has been incredible. I mean, the singing stuff, which we get with the crowd now. I become, yeah. The singing, the Jericho stuff, the car. I mean, you could tell Sammy's really creative, and that's the thing. There's so many guys that are just on that precipice right now. We're seeing it, with Sammy, with MJF, Jungle Boy's right in the mix, and now Darby Allin, who we're going to talk about in just a minute, because he's definitely going to be elevated, it looks like, with the presence of Sting around. So we'll find out next week the ultimatum for the Inner Circle. Young Bucks cut a promo backstage, heel Young Bucks, which, I don't know if you saw earlier today, they posted we're recording this on Thursday. They posted a tweet with them standing with TNA in the background. Just a total troll tweet. I guess, they do a good job with this role. That's the one thing, is their work in the ring is always going to be awesome, but they seem like they have a fun time when they're getting to play just a total snossagey heel like this.
Yeah, and I kind of like that they're kind of treating these tag belts, since they've won them, as almost like the way Cody was using the TNT title, where it's they're giving shots to tag teams that either were in the independent circuit or haven't got a lot of shine on Dynamite, like TH2 coming up. So yeah, I kind of dig that they're giving all these tag teams a chance, because this roster, again, the tag team division is just loaded.
It's stacked. So we'll see some good tag action coming up next week, where Young Bucks will be facing TH2. Now we have Britt Baker versus Layla Hirsch, which, Britt Baker, you could tell that they like her quite a bit. She's got the character and the personality down. I think she's going to be an AEW women's champ in the near future. I think she probably was getting set to be one before she got hurt, actually. And Layla is I like her in-ring work. She's a good worker. She's an actual legitimate wrestler. And she's kind of short and compact, so she's got a different look and sort of a different style than a lot of the other women do. And I enjoyed this match for the most part. And a lot of the AEW women's work, I got to say, is probably some of my least favorite stuff with the company. Just when you compare it to some of the strength of the WWE women's division or NXT women's division, they seem like they have a little bit more as far as top tier talent. But I'm a big fan of Britt Baker. I think her work needs to get cleaned up a little bit, but I like the overall presence. And I thought this was fun. It was not bad. I like the work from Hirsch here too, and you could tell that JR loved talking about a shooter like this, someone with some real sports background.
Yeah, I think he likes Hirsch a lot and Deeb. He usually glows when these performers are on. But yeah, I was impressed too by Hirsch. I hope they sign her, and I hope they put her in Team Taz or something, just as a great shoot fighter.
Perfect.
To go with Taz. That'd be great. But Britt, it's just a matter of when. With her, it's going to happen. I do like, coming out of the match, we saw her and Thunder Rosa go back at it, and Thunder Rosa again has been probably the most important women wrestler who's joined AEW. I don't know if she's there full time, but just her work with the NWA, and I know she's not champion anymore, but they really need to elevate their women's division and just give them the proper time to kind of build these storylines. And thankfully, we have the NWA presence on here. And maybe we get the TNA presence on here soon.
Yeah, I think it would only help strengthen the women's division that's been one of the few weak links, I think, of AEW. They've been pretty darn good overall with everything that they're doing. Britt wins with the submission. Thunder Rosa attacks post-match. As you mentioned, the refs and officials come out to celebrate. A couple big moments on this show, and one of them was next in the tag match. It was Darby Allin and Cody with Arn versus Team Taz. So you got Starks and Powerhouse Hobbs with Taz and with Brian Cage out there with them. Cody, the note that I made too, he's getting very top heavy too. Something he mentioned a few weeks ago. He's definitely putting on some bulk up top, and Taz's son has actually been trading with Cody. So there's some inner turmoil between Taz and Cody. Cody and Darby were in control early. They were working on Starks, and then Hobbs with a nasty clothesline to Darby outside the ring. The heels are working over Darby, and I mean Hobbs look really impressive. He is an overhead throw of Darby by the ears, which was just nasty. Cody comes in on the hot tag. He's the House of Fire. He hits the Cody Cutter to Darby, and Darby for the coffin drop and the win. Post-match, Team Taz is just beating down Cody and Darby, and then Arn gets in the mix, and Arn is on the floor. Here comes Dustin Rhodes. He's on the floor. Cage is out there. So we've got all of Team Taz has basically just destroyed Darby Allin, Cody, Arn, and Dustin. And then the lights go out. And we see a video that plays, and the word Sting shows up on the video, and Tony Schiavone, it's Sting! He was so excited. And this was one of those wow type moments. Now, doesn't matter where you stand on this, and you're going to say, yeah, 61-year-old guy, this and that, but we don't know how they're going to use him. We don't know what's going to happen. You just got to say, this is one of the few people I think that is actually someone who can move the needle and will get people talking, get them buzzing, and probably has WWE looking over and going, should we have done something more with Sting? This was a massive moment. This was really cool. He didn't say a word, Alex. He walked into the ring, and he just had a little moment with everyone. He had a moment with Cody. He walked to Arn, which was really cool.
Yeah, that was cool.
He walked to Dustin, and then the moment with Darby where they kind of looked each other up and down. So this was really, really awesome. One of those wow moments that we have kind of reserved that we thought would be WWE giving us, and now we're getting them from AEW. This was a huge night for them, and this was one of two things that people are talking about. But like you said, with Sting, you'd figure this was the big moment of the night, but there was still more to come.
Yeah, like you said, this was just incredible. I think the biggest thing is because no one expected it. Like, usually with wrestling, like in the
leaks,
post-internet era, yeah, you get a week ahead of time that, oh, maybe Sting will do something. Like, we got that kind of with Edge when he first returned to WWE, but with Sting, it just came out of nowhere. And yeah, like, just again, I hope they use him in the proper way, and I do trust they will. Like, they've done a great job with their legends already with Arn and Tully and with Jake Roberts. Like, they're not coming in and winning the belt. You know, they're not doing something crazy like TNA was doing or late WCW, really. But so I think they've hopefully learned from the mistakes of other companies and use Sting. I actually don't know how they would use him. Do you have any
I'm
idea?
curious. Is it maybe you have him in a tag, or maybe he has some big matches here and there. Maybe he is a mentor to Darby.
Yeah.
I don't know. You know, maybe. But I feel like they're probably going to want to try to get a little more out of him early. I don't want him like we saw what WWE was doing in that. You know what? If you're going to have Sting in a fun bells and whistles like no DQ match with Jericho, I'm cool with that, right? Like that's cool use of him. I don't want to see him trying to go 20 minutes with Kenny Omega like he tried to do with Seth Rollins, you know, because that just can't really, like, that's not really who he is anymore. He's 61. He really wasn't really ever that guy to begin with. So the presence of him is awesome. And what this does, Alex, like you said, we're curious in how they're going to use him. And what's great is that we're curious in what's going to happen. We're going to tune in next week.
Yeah.
We just haven't been getting enough of that the last couple of years from WWE like we got on this episode. There are multiple reasons why I'm tuning in next week to to Impact Wrestling and to AEW, you know? So this was really, really cool. The snow was falling down. Sting back on TNT, did not say a word. And the announcers were just going ballistic. And it was cool to have Tony there, you know, as Tony was like the WCW guy for all those years. They promote what's going to be happening next week. MJF, Orange Cassidy, Young Bucks TH2, Dustin Rhodes versus 10 from the Dark Order, FTR Varsity Blondes, Abaddon in action, the new woman who looks pretty imposing, and the Inner Circle Ultimatum. They also have Lance Archer and the Lucha Bros versus Kingston Butcher and the Blade, so a packed show already for next week. Sting speaks also, and then we get a great promo from Moxley. He's backstage. He talks about how this is the huge night. Kenny and him were on a collision course forever, and he even gives a little shout at the end to Pat Patterson when he says, "Go banana." These are the kind of promos we wish we could have seen more of from Moxley in WWE. You don't need to write for guys like this. You just give them some bullet points, let them know, hey, this is what we want you to get across, and give them the mic.
And I'll say this, I know we're going to talk about the main event coming up, but I just want to give shout out to like Moxley for this title run. Like, it's been a
awesome.
lengthy run, and the majority of it, if not all of it, has come with, you know, the post-COVID era and with no crowds and all this stuff. But his promo work, like his stuff with Eddie Kingston, like the promo work during that build-up was amazing. He's just been consistently one of the best, if not the best, like world champion in North America in terms of just
100%.
Yeah, so I whatever happens with him next coming out of this whole angle, which I don't know what happens with anyone coming out of this show, but him specifically, I thought he's just proven how valuable he is to this company.
So we get the setup for the main event, and they call it the biggest night in AEW history, which that's no hyperbole. It is. This absolutely was. It had a big fight feel. It was a big fight night. Don Callis joins commentary. This is something they've done recently on a pay-per-view before with Kenny against Hangman, because Don is very close to Kenny. They're basically like family. They've grown. Don was with Kenny growing up. He was a big influence in him for him in the wrestling world. So it's not weird having him out there, but this is a little great thing that it would have been weird if this was the first time.
Yes.
Right? The fact that they've had him there before and that everything was fine and nothing weird went down threw you off. You just thought that, okay, this is like Kenny's going to win, but and maybe Don's there for the moment with Kenny winning, but he's not going to have any involvement in the match or anything like that. So that was just another small detail that, you know, I hate comparing everything to WWE, but you have to when they're the big one, that they've gotten away from the last couple of years. They kind of make you feel a little stupid sometimes as a fan. And this was great. And this was like a really good match. There was, I think, 40 minutes left when the intro started, and we got about a 30-minute actual bell-to-bell match with good work at the beginning, mat work. They were basically telling the story that Moxley was super prepared for Kenny, and he had done his homework, and he knew that everything that Kenny was going to throw at him, and he had a counter for all of that. And then it really, really starts to pick up quite a bit. Moxley hits a couple nasty DDTs, hits the DDT, and then he doesn't pin him. He goes outside, he gets a couple of chairs, he sets them both up. These two guys sit down in the chairs across from each other and just smack the crap out of each other back and forth and back and forth. Then it really starts to pick up. Omega snack dragon suplex. We get a nasty lariat from Moxley. Paradigm shift, long 2 count, rolls outside. And Moxley goes for a suicide dive. He gets hit with a V trigger, missile drop kick off the top rope. I mean, we're just going back and forth. All of the greatest hits for Kenny, and Moxley is holding up his end of the bargain in there too. One wing angel. He's countered back and forth. A ripcord V trigger.
Yeah.
Then they're outside the ring, and Moxley sort of DDT suplexes Kenny into one of the big, large heaters that they had. So the refs come out. They're checking on Omega, who's selling it like he's got a head injury. Don Callis comes off of the commentary to go check on Kenny. They're talking to him. Moxley says no. He grabs Omega, throws him back in the ring. He doesn't care. He keeps going after Kenny. He Then he turns his focus to Don Callis, who distracts him for a little bit. The microphone ends up in the ring. Kenny grabs the mic and he nails Moxley with the mic. Then after it wasn't one of those finishes where it's like, oh, I'm gonna hit you with the mic and that's the finish. It was 2 V triggers, then a V trigger to the back of the head, another V trigger. Moxley is just busted open. He hits the one-winged angel, bloody Mox everywhere, and your new AEW champion, Kenny Omega. And then Kenny and Don, they are like bat out of hell. Earl Hebner after the Montreal screw job, Shawn Michaels, Triple H, they take the belt, they run out of there. We get no celebration. We get nothing. And as they're walking through the back, Tony Khan and all sorts of AEW officials are screaming at him, "What did you do? I can't believe you did this." I mean, it felt they did a great job in making it feel chaotic. Like, what is happening? What's going on? And reporter catches up with Don Callis right in the parking lot as they're about to get into a car. And Don says, you want to know what's going on? Tune in on Tuesday night. And they said, Impact's on, or Dynamite's on Wednesday. He said, no, I'm not talking about Dynamite. I'm talking about Impact Wrestling on Axis TV. So we've got like a cross-promotional thing going on here. And say whatever you want about TNA, what used to be TNA, now they're Impact. Are they on the level with AEW, this, that? This was damn cool, Alex. This felt real. This was something that we were not expecting. Again, like you said with the Sting thing earlier, it came out of nowhere. And this felt fresh.
Yeah, this whole thing, like you said, it's not even so much that it's TNA. Like, I think, obviously, if it was New Japan, it would be a bigger deal. But it doesn't really matter. It's the story AEW is going to get out of this. Like, we're talking about it today. Everyone's talking about it today. Like, WWE simply wouldn't do this, right? They're not going to even acknowledge other companies. What AEW is doing is they're not only acknowledging other companies, they're going to be sending their world champion to another company on Tuesday
to cut his first promo as the champ.
That is absurd.
Right?
So there's so many different ways that we can go from this. Like, I honestly was shocked. Like you said, it was so smart to bring Callis in for the last pay-per-view to call that Hangman Omega match, because it wasn't a red herring anymore, right? Like, we knew he was probably just going to commentate, but we had no idea he was going to interfere and take him to TNA. Like, it's just crazy.
He's walking out, you guys did this to yourself. And then both of them on Twitter afterwards have been great. Callis is like, AEW screwed AEW. He is just playing this heel shtick amazingly. And now, do they do something where Kenny is taking this title belt to some different promotions? Is he taking it here and then you see him show up somewhere in NWA maybe and in New Japan? I mean, there's just a billion questions we can ask, which is exactly what we want from our wrestling. We want it to be like this, felt like something, and not even like the CM Punk when he left with the belt. That was awesome, but you kind of knew where it was going to go. And like you said, with Vince and WWE, Punk was never showing up somewhere else with that belt.
Exactly.
This is different. Like, this feels like everything is on the table right now, and a great angle. And we got a cool surprise appearance in Sting. And I want to make sure before we finish up, we'll have get your overall thoughts on the show and coming out of it. But I want to give some props to that match too, because that was a great match for Moxley Omega. People probably won't talk about the match because they're going to be talking about Sting. They're talking about the angle, but the final 7 to 10 minutes or so were really, really good. And you have to give Mox a ton of credit. We know Omega is one of the best, if not the best wrestler in the world at the top of his game, but Moxie showed he can compete and keep up with Kenny here.
Yeah. And like you mentioned earlier, like the weather in Jacksonville, definitely, people are complaining about that all night, and for the performers to kind of be hanging out backstage all night, getting like stiff and then having to go out and do like a 30-40 minute match and then a post-match promo and a post-match angle, like all that's really tough. But then to also do, it was very like New Japan. I thought they laid out their match like the New Japan style, and I'm sure that was intentional.
And then that last, there's always that sequence of 5+ minutes or so where it's boom, 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 boom. Yeah, it just props to everybody. This is something that's tough to do too. You're promoting a big show for a while now, and this had to be a night that AEW hit a home run. It did. They couldn't hit a double here. There were going to be a lot of eyeballs on this show. They knew what they were doing by putting Sting on this show. And I mean, I think they hit an absolute home run. I'm really excited. I have so many questions now about what's going to happen. They did a great job too of just promoting everything for next week on this show that there was already 900,000 eyeballs on, right? So everybody now already knows, hey, what's happening next week? Sting's talking. We got a Young Bucks match. We got, these 3 other matches that they've already stacked. That's the kind of thing, that small little attention to detail stuff that in the long run, if this company continues to build, and you would think they're only going to get better behind the scenes, with new and young EVPs and guys who haven't been doing this forever. I'm really impressed, and I'm proud of what they're doing. As a wrestling fan, it's phenomenal. This was just a blast of a night to watch live wrestling on TV, and I used to get this way for Monday Night Raw. I used to be like appointment viewing. I would have my alarm set, sit down, crack a beer, and I'm just like, I'd love to watch Raw and SmackDown, and it hasn't felt that way as much. This was a blast of a couple hours, Alex.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking to people online about it yesterday, and we can't remember another wrestling program like that episode last night for Dynamite that felt like how it used to, like you just said. It's an event viewing. If you watch AEW, and specifically that episode, and you miss that episode, imagine you missed last night's episode. There's weight to that, right? If you miss
it's
2
FOMO
months of,
now. You're like,
yeah.
Damn it, I didn't see Sting. He took the title. He's going
TNA.
Impact? What the hell? And it came off cool. I agree. I would have been upset if I wasn't watching that show live last night.
Yeah, and compare that to, again, I don't want to always compare it to WWE.
But you have to. You have to. They're the measuring stick,
But you can miss. I haven't watched Raw. No exaggeration. Maybe 2 years. I just listen to podcasts where they review it, so I'm caught up. I know what's going on.
You catch the highlights on Twitter. Sure. Anything big that happens, but you don't feel. You can go a month and be like, oh, okay, these two guys are still going, huh? We've had 4 variations of this match over the last month, and that's it. There's nothing else. I agree. And so as wrestling fans coming off of an awesome night, Alex, I know you on Throwdowns and some of your written work, you do a lot of NBA stuff, but hey, you're a wrestling fan. There's some wrestling stuff in there a lot of times too. Tell the folks out there how we can follow you on social media and what you got coming up.
Yeah. So you can find me on Twitter, Alex M. Regla. And I usually do tweet out, if it's Dynamite, I know most of my followers are NBA Laker fans, but I still tweet out some of my thoughts from the show and stuff like that. So you can follow me there. And yeah, I have a newsletter if you're a Lakers fan. It's throwdowns.substack. I do have a few wrestling pieces up on there. I wrote something on Hangman Page from earlier past year, and I still think he's incredible. He's probably my favorite wrestler going right now. But yeah, you can catch my work there.
We got Alex pulling double duty today, talking some AEW and some Lakers with us. One of the few people out there is talented and able to do so much. So, Alex, thank you. And for those of you who are also NBA Laker fans too, make sure to find the other segment on That's What G Said this week, where Alex and I talk about the Lakers roster and some of the Laker moves and what to look forward to. So thanks again, Alex. Have a nice weekend coming up, buddy.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me as always.
Don't go anywhere, folks. Plenty more on That's What G Said.
Thank you to Alex for helping us out. AEW and the Lakers pulling double duty today. Alex Regla. So while we are in the entertainment corner, I guess, of That's What G Said, I'm going to go and join a friend of mine, Peter Brady, who is a Star Wars expert, knows everything about the Star Wars universe, the canon, all the different movies, all the books, the cartoons, animation, you name it, Peter knows about it. And he's been watching The Mandalorian, as many of us have on Disney+. Mandalorian Season 2, we are on Episode 5 right now. So we're going to give a full recap of everything that happened. Spoiler alert, if you haven't been watching, we will go through things that are happening on the episodes, that have happened in previous episodes, that have happened in anything in the Star Wars universe, because now things are really starting to connect. This is a cool conversation if you're someone like me who only has watched the Star Wars movies and you're watching The Mandalorian, if you're an expert, if you're someone like Peter who loves everything Star Wars, you'll probably like hearing some of the things that he talks about and some of the ways he's able to answer my questions about Ahsoka Tano. Who are some of these major characters that we're finding out about in The Mandalorian? Peter Brady, my old buddy from high school, from LaSalle, joins me. Kick back and enjoy, folks. We talk for about a half an hour on The Mandalorian Season 2, Episode 5. Okay, really excited for this one, folks. You've heard me doing my little mini recaps of the Mandalorian week by week, but basically that's just kind of telling you what's happening on the episode. This week, and I think from now on out, it's going to be a little bit different because what we're seeing in the last couple of weeks is all of these worlds unlocked in the Star Wars universe, in the canon of different movies, of different things that are all over from the last 30, 40 years. And someone who's a big Star Wars fan and who knows all about the Star Wars universe to talk with us about Mandalorian Season 2, Episode 5, and just about the show overall is a friend of mine that I have not talked to in a while, but he reached out and said he was a Star Wars fan when I was asking for some help the other day, and I'm very happy to have my old buddy from high school, Peter Brady, to join us here on That's What G Said. Peter, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well, G. I'm doing really well. I'm really excited to be on. I've been enjoying the pod a lot lately, so I'm honored to be here helping out.
Oh, man, thanks a bunch. So, okay, big picture overall thoughts. I'm someone who is been a Star Wars fan, but I've been a fan of the movies. I know a little bit about what's going on, but I've just recently gotten into Clone Wars and Rebels and some of the other the non-movie canon of Star Wars. So where do you stand with The Mandalorian overall? You know, as someone who knows Star Wars, are you positive, negative? Do you like what Favreau and Filoni seem to be doing with it, or do you not? Give us your thoughts as someone who has been ingrained in the Star Wars world. How does this hold up?
It's phenomenal. I think anytime, David Filoni has really taken the mantle as the guy carrying on the Star Wars legacy for George Lucas, but he's not particularly well known outside of, if your main experience with Star Wars is through just the movies, right, or only live action, you might not know him as well. But he started the Clone Wars cartoons with George Lucas's blessing, and that show had added a ton of backstory and really shored up a lot of the weaknesses of the prequel movies. And then he has gone on, he did Rebels, and then he's obviously a part of this. Favreau has also been really involved, and I think they've done an awesome job with this show. They've got a really tricky balance to deal with, because they've got, on one hand, a huge number of fans who only watched through the movies, and they have to make a show that appeals to people just on its own, right? You can't have too much backstory where people who haven't watched all the other mediums,
you're overwhelmed.
You're like, I don't understand what's happening here. Who are all these characters? At the same time, they have to, make it interesting enough for those diehard fans who've gotten way into those shows to not feel like this is dumbed down or not applicable to the rest of the Star Wars universe.
It really feels like it's serving two masters very well at the moment, like that. Because if you're someone like my girlfriend who watched this show, and we didn't know until I started doing the research and saying, okay, now I'm so interested in really what Filoni and Favreau seem like they want to do. Kind of like you said, they want to sort of clean up some of the mess that there have been in some of the more recent movies, and they have this canvas now where they're able to do so. And so it's fascinating for me to go back and when we talk about major episodes, because one thing we've seen with The Mandalorian 2, which is cool, is that it doesn't really have, like, it hasn't put itself into a box yet. Like, every episode can be different. Some weeks and most weeks it kind of follows the formula of he goes somewhere to a new place with the child Mandalorian, and they have some
problem they have to solve, and they get some information, and then they kind of move on. And some episodes we're getting a lot more backstory than others. Some are kind of episodes that were a lot of fun but didn't really progress the story. That has not been the case in the last two. Actually, two of the last three, really, Peter, because we've seen a lot from when Bo-Katan came in, and now these are just massive names in the Star Wars universe, with Bo-Katan, with Ahsoka Tano, with Grand Admiral Thrawn. And in this same episode, we also found out the child, who was being referred to as the child or Baby Yoda, has a name too in Grogu. So these last couple episodes seem like they're really starting to progress things.
Yeah, it's like you said, they have been balancing between doing their monster of the week,
spaghetti western kind of. Yeah.
Little storylines with the very formulaic, fix somebody's problem, get more information, move on. And then mixing in these characters who have a ton of backstory if you've watched any of the other stuff. But again, like we said, they have to be able to stand on their own for somebody who's never even watched any of that stuff. So it's been an incredible couple of episodes, from really, episode 3 with Bo-Katan coming on, and then seeing, in episode 4, you get a little bit of the Snoke tie-in, and you see that
the cloning stuff. And
exactly. And then this episode, obviously, like, Ahsoka Tano he's just huge outside, in the Star Wars, Clone Wars, Rebels universe for folks. She's one of the biggest characters in the story and a huge fan favorite. So to see her in live action's been awesome.
And she shows up here right away to start episode 5 of season 2 of The Mandalorian. And I mean, just an unbelievable scene to start on Cauldron out of the darkness. She is just looking so badass here. Tell us a little bit about the weapon that she's wielding. She's got the different kind of saber.
Yeah, so she has the 2 white lightsabers, which is a new thing for anyone outside who's never seen those. And she got them by defeating Sith apprentice, essentially an inquisitor, if you will, is what they're called, and then purifying the crystals, because all the Sith have these red lightsabers because they make the kyber crystal bleed, and that's kind of they're torturing it to their dark force, dark side will, and she purifies it from this guy she beat, and so she's got these awesome white lightsabers.
And we see sort of a standoff pretty early on in this episode. We're introduced to the magistrate, this evil woman who, and actually kind of cool in real life, I guess she's the goddaughter of Bruce Lee. So she's apparently pretty badass fighter herself, but she is someone that Ahsoka has a past with, and she's trying to get some information out of her. We're going to find out later in the episode because another key name is mentioned, but she mentions wanting to know about getting some information as far to where is your leader of this woman. So she's talking about someone named Grand Admiral Thrawn, who's another big name.
Yeah, and they did a great job by teasing that without letting us know until the very end, right? Mm-hmm. Because you're like, oh, is it Moff Gideon? Who's she talking about? And then bam, at the end, it's like Grand Admiral Thrawn, which is, again, another huge name. So he's a really fascinating character as well. So it's exciting because you can see the tie-ins with some of the shows, Rebels in particular here.
And a little bit of a tangent, but what's cool about this too is that we don't even know if all of these people that are being introduced are going to be back a ton in this show, or if they're just sort of teasing like their own spin-off shows down the line, because we keep hearing about all these, that are in the works already. The Obi-Wan, is there going to be, I'd imagine Rosario Dawson's not going to be just playing this character for one episode of one show. So they've got bigger plans for her down the line, whether it be here or with her own spin-off. Now you mention names like Grand Admiral Thrawn, and you're starting to see, but there have been teases of Boba Fett already in this season. So that's what's kind of cool, is in the works, you're already thinking, wow, like these characters might kind of have their own worlds and their own shows now moving forward.
Yeah, it seems like now we're seeing Mandalorian is just kind of sowing the seeds for all of these standalone shows. And we may not see that much more of Ahsoka Tano, but like you said, now we get her spinoff. She's got her own show. You got Obi-Wan going on. You got Boba Fett. You basically tied everything to this massively popular starting block, and now your casual fans who might have just been like, okay, let's kind of see what this is about, are now tied in or hooked in and ready to go onto those next shows when they come out.
So most of the episodes, we get right off the bat, we're with Mandalorian, we're with the child. This one it's Ahsoka for a while before we get to the Razor Crest and we see Baby Yoda playing around, like always misbehaving like a little child on there. And he's using the Force. He's playing with some of the levers that he's always not supposed to, before Mando and the child land to go find Ahsoka Tano. So they head into town, and it's just a real desolate place. And once you get into this area where they have to ask for permission in order to get into town, they tell them they're there for a layover. I mean, nobody wants to talk. Everybody's sort of in shackles. I mean, they actually have, right outside of the magistrate's place, they actually have these prisoners sort of hanging there being shocked, just to kind of give you a little message of like how nice of a place this is.
Yeah, it's a great, really nice throwback to the old Western desolate town, when people are hiding away. They're looking at the stranger coming through, and he's walking down Main Street with that kind of swagger. And like you said, it's doesn't look like a promising place to live.
So Mandalorian is trying to find information there, and he is kind of taken by some guards right up to the magistrate, who is Morgan Elsbeth, I believe her name is. And she, while the entire town is awful, she lives in this beautiful, like, palatial state with all this great garden and just greenery all over the place. And she tells Mandalorian she needs his help. She wants to kill a Jedi, and she says, in exchange for that, I will give you my Beskar spear here, which, of course, you throw Beskar out there. Mando is intrigued right away, so he's looking at that. But he knows who she's talking about, and he just asks, tell me where to go, find the Jedi, I will go find her. And they lead him out there to, that desolate forest we were talking about, and he's making his way, sort of looking around. Anytime things are a little too quiet, a Jedi's about to pop out somewhere, right? Because that's what the case is. And we get just a quick, 20 seconds of these two battling before I think Din Mandalorian realizes, I don't want to go too much longer with her because she's going to put me down. So he immediately says, Ahsoka Tano, Bo-Katan sent me. She spots the child, and she says, wow, I hope it's about him. And then it's just like a wow moment here where we're getting, her connecting. She immediately notices the child, and within the next 5 minutes, we basically get a backstory for one of the main characters of the show that we've gone for 2.5 years with not knowing a whole lot about the child. Immediately we get his name, Grogu, and when she says his name, and then when Mandalorian says his name, he just coos, like, he's so excited to hear his name being said. So how big a moment was, or a few moments was all of this, Peter?
Yeah, it was great, because like you said, we don't have any backstory on this kid, and so we've all been kind of wondering about it and what's happening. Who is it? And from the beginning, we don't know. There's this suspicion, like, oh, is this a clone of Yoda? Because there's cloners involved. Is he his own person? And kind of all of his backstory. How did he come to exist? And so she fills in a lot of those gaps, right? We got that he was training at the Jedi Temple. He is his own being. He's not a clone of Yoda. He's obviously got his own name. But also that he was hidden away, right at the start of the Empire, and there's enough mystery left behind too, with it's like, things get dark. We have blurred, unknown past, so there's still some holes to be filled there, but a ton of information dropped all at once.
Yeah, and then just questions that are asked after this too, like who has he hidden from, like who hid him, who helped hide him, who saved him, and like you said, what relation does he have to Yoda? Because I guess in all of canon there are 3 of these beings that have been spoken about, right? It's Yoda, Yaddle, and then now Grogu.
Yeah, and we still don't know a lot about him. The species is basically still unknown. We don't have a ton of information, and yeah, it's just Yoda, Yaddle, and Grogu now.
So Ahsoka mentions that she's gonna test him in the morning. She talks with Mando about the Force, and he says his powers, I've seen him do things that I can't explain. She actually mentions Yoda, and that's another kind of cool thing. When it's just cool when anyone like a Yoda gets mentioned, or some of the first times they talked about the Force in the show, and you start to get all the worlds connecting here. And when Yoda was mentioned, Grogu perks up again. So we have to imagine that there was some sort of a relationship there. When he's at the temple, at least Yoda's teaching him something like that. And she says in the morning she's going to test him, but she does test him, and the results aren't really great. And we get another of these cool, really throwback lines where she says, I sensed much fear in you. She said she's worried because he's so attached to Mandalorian that he has, fear, and he'll use his fear. And she has mentioned that I've seen what such feelings can do to a Jedi Knight, even the best of us, which is a reference to, wow, Anakin, right?
Yeah, it's a moment that stands on its own if you don't have her backstory. But again, if you know, Ahsoka Tano was Anakin Skywalker's Padawan, and they were incredibly close. She, up until the very end of the Clone Wars, was side by side with him through it all, and for a long time didn't even know what happened to him afterwards, and then finally finds out he turned to Vader. And so she is, replaying this like, hey, I can see what happens when somebody's got these attachments and these fears, and it can turn even the best of us. And she truly believed Anakin was the best Jedi Knight, with reason. I mean, he was amazing, right? And so she's been close to him, and so it has a really big emotional impact here as well. You can see it on her face.
Yeah, she's taken, very much taken. Mando talks with her. He lets her know they're trying to kill her, and he says, "Hey, same thing like most episodes. I'll help you out. You help me out. If you train Grogu, I will help you kill the magistrate. We'll get the information that you need." So they plan their attack, and then we get a funny line there where he says, "A Mandalorian and a Jedi, they'll never see it coming," which is good, and they didn't, because they were able to have a good plan to get Ahsoka into the town, and then she gets up close and she's able to throw down some of the Mandalorian's armor. So you would think that she's killed him. And she even says to the magistrate, "Your bounty hunter is done. No, he's no good here." And that's when the Mandalorian's able to come in and sort of help. And so what he does is he kind of just stands guard, and he buys her time standing guard outside of the magistrate so she can go in and have her one-on-one battle and get the information that she wants. So they have a great plan, and we were talking about two pretty bitchin' fighters together. So they're going to be a tough team to stop.
Yeah, and it was huge for Ahsoka to get to have Mando with her, because you can see as she mows through just all of these troopers and every guard sent her way. She had no problem getting to the magistrate. The issue was the magistrate's like, "I'm just going to start killing citizens." Mm-hmm. And so she doesn't have a way of stopping that. And then in comes Mando, and he can free the prisoners, keep things settled, handles her business, and she doesn't have to worry about all these people just getting massacred while she goes and handles her stuff. So it worked out really well.
The magistrate's head henchman is kind of standing outside with the Mandalorian, and there's a funny moment too. He's got a couple of good comedic lines too, where he's just like, "Hey, who do you think's gonna win?" Yeah. and then he could tell after the fighting he has another where he's like, "Uh-oh, sounds like you won." So this was a fun moment with these two out front.
So well done, because you just see him just listening. You can hear the lightsabers and the Beskar spear going back and forth, and they're just two guys. They know what's going on, and they're just waiting to hear how it ends.
And one thing about the Beskar spear too, which we sort of see here, is that it is able to sort of fight off a lightsaber.
Right, and this is setting up, it seems, to get Mando ready to face Moff Gideon, because Moff Gideon's got, if you remember, that lightsaber at the end of the first season. It's actually called the Dark Saber. It's a Mandalorian relic, and so he's going to be prepared to take him on.
So after a little battle with Ahsoka and the Magistrate, she's got her by the neck, and she mentions a name that is another big one, in not a name that you hear mentioned in the Star Wars movies, but as far as a massive character that just connects a ton of different time, that's Grand Admiral Thrawn. So now we know that that's who she's looking for, and then it opens up a whole bunch of other new questions. These are some characters that I don't know that well, but is someone like an Ezra going to come into play? Is that who she's looking for? I mean, that's kind of fun for those of you who know the world like you do, Peter, is that, man, every time there's another piece of information, there's all these ways that information can go.
Yeah, and so the last time we had actually seen Ahsoka in anything was at the very end of Rebels, where she's meeting up with Sabine Wren, who's another Mandalorian, and they're going to go look for Ezra, because Ezra was last seen in a ship with Grand Admiral Thrawn that got thrown into hyperspace, into unknown regions. Nobody knows where they went. And so Ahsoka's been hunting down Thrawn to ostensibly find Ezra Bridger. So that's another great tie-in. And like you said, it leads to so many more episodes of its own thing.
So now Ahsoka, after winning the battle, she gives Mando the Beskar spear. At first, he doesn't want to take it, but she sort of convinces him to do so. And so, as you mentioned, that'll set up that he's going to have to be dealing with somebody in a lightsaber battle down the line in the very near future. Now the city is no longer imprisoned. They are back to being a free city, which is what she wanted. And one of the inhabitants of the city, who was actually sort of one of the only people who wanted to help Mando and do his best to help him, he seems like he's the new mayor now. So things are fixed here for the moment. And Mando says, "Okay, I'm going to go get Grogu for what he thinks is a goodbye, because he thinks he's going to be leaving Grogu with Ahsoka to train him." Well, and so we're getting ready, but we can kind of tell and imagine it's not going to be a goodbye here, because these two we imagine are going to be connected at least for a while longer. So she says she cannot train him, but she tells the Mandalorian to go to Typhon, the place Grogu at the top of the mountain, and Grogu can choose his own path. And if there are any Jedis still around that will feel his presence, they will reach out to him. This is another huge moment, because that's a place that I may have butchered the name of, but that's a very pivotal place as far as the history and the past of the Jedi.
Yeah, it was temporarily the headquarters of the Jedi for a long time. It's got a very important temple there, and what we've seen in a couple of, we see it in the Clone Wars, but more so in Rebels, is these Jedi temples have ways of kind of connecting Force users to other Jedi and to the greater Force in general. And so going to Tython, placing him there, and letting him open up to the Force could potentially help him reach other Jedi who might be able to train him. And
so if there's any of the, if this is maybe a Luke or a Leia that's somewhere out there, but one of the negatives about this is this could be like a Palpatine, right? Or someone that's evil also.
Yeah. It kind of leaves you up to what I'm guessing it seems like it's up to what's in Grogu's, heart, mm-hmm. if you will. Mm-hmm. Is he opening up to the light or to the dark side? And then, like Ahsoka mentioned, there's not that many Jedi left. There's very few around. And so the known ones, Luke, Leia, we said Ezra, Ahsoka, and, that's about it. There's two from the video game Fallen Order, but we don't know that they would want to tie those in. So not a lot of options.
And as they leave, Ahsoka and Grogu share a little nod there that almost makes you think that, that there was something a little more to this, right? Maybe Grogu is kind of, this is what he wants, and maybe she is kind of pushing it along for him. So, or it could have just been a nod, but I don't know. It felt like there was a little something more there, and then there she goes. So, the episode, on just a standalone episode of TV, it was excellent. There was so much action, and what we've seen now from season 1 to season 2 is like with their budget and them realizing how big of a hit this is, like the visuals and so many visual throwbacks to old Star Wars stuff. Like the moment when Ahsoka and Grogu sort of first meet and they're reading each other's thoughts with the moon in the background, the visual right off the bat in the forest with her, and we see the saber. I mean, just from a damn good looking standpoint, it's awesome. Then you throw in how well Filoni and Favreau understand, and I think it's a respect thing, right? Like they respect the fans and they respect the canon and the story.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing with them is they are themselves huge fans. They're self-admitted nerds, and they love this universe, and so they hold it and care for it with a reverence that I think, honestly, a lot of fans felt was missing in the sequel trilogies that came out most recently. So they really cared for it, and Dave Filoni has been a caretaker for this franchise now for a while, and so it's really well done. And like you said, the visuals are stunning. Really, Ahsoka, that opening scene where she's running through the mist and just seems like a ghost. Destroying these 4 hapless troopers. It was awesome.
Yeah, I just so excited every week, like staying up to watch as soon as it comes out. When it comes out late, I love watching this, and I'm hooked now on going back. And what makes it cool too, Peter, now it's really easy to watch everything because it's all right there on Disney for the most part now, on Disney Plus. Like all of the movies now, and even the shows. And so it was before a couple years ago, you'd have to kind of find this here or find this there. I mean, you can just watch it all for the most part right there now. And it feels like this show that came as just a TV, we didn't realize what it was going to be. This has kind of become like the center of the Star Wars universe now, because it can connect like everything.
Yeah, they've done an incredible job of setting this up to pull in new fans or casual fans into more depth, and just also keep your fanatical fans happy at the same time. They've done an awesome job. It's so well done.
Peter, this was exactly what I was looking for. Like, there are so many questions or little things that I would need someone like you, and you could spell it all out. Man, I can't thank you enough for helping me out. And I'm already going to ask you, if you don't mind, maybe at the end of the season in a couple weeks to come back and we can put a bow on season 2 and talk about some things that we might be looking forward to for season 3 moving forward.
I would love that. That sounds awesome. I appreciate you for having me on. This has been a blast chatting about this show and the whole Star Wars universe. It's awesome.
You take care of your little man at home, and hope everything goes well with the family. And you have a nice couple of weeks with the holidays coming up. And I will talk to you soon, because I'm definitely going to be asking you questions now. Anytime I have a question about something, I'm going to shoot you a message. So thanks again, buddy. I really appreciate this.
Thanks again, man. Feel free to hit me up. We'll talk to you soon.
That was Peter Brady helping us out, Star Wars expert. He's going to be one of our go-to guys here for all the Star Wars stuff on That's What G Said. Don't go anywhere, folks. We'll be back with much more on this episode. Just great stuff from Peter. Exactly what I was hoping for. Someone who could kind of bridge and fill in a lot of the gaps for some of us who are not quite as expert Star Wars fans. But now I'm kind of getting hooked now. I'm going back and starting to watch some of the animations and the cartoons so we can fill in all the gaps, because this is all canon. This is all stuff that feels like it's going to be important now when we continue to watch these new Star Wars shows and spin-offs and movies that are going to be on Disney Plus. Big thank you to Peter. We'll have to get him back in a few weeks to discuss the second season once it's finished up.
I'm going to finish up with some thoughts on a couple of different things that are out right now. First, just real quick thoughts on the new Saved by the Bell, which is the reboot. And then after that, I'm going to talk a little bit about a movie called Happiest Season, which was on Hulu that I really enjoyed. Saved by the Bell, kind of corny and fun maybe to have on in the background with the kids. If you're an old Saved by the Bell fan, you'll get a kick out of seeing Zach and Kelly and Slater and Jesse and even a Lisa Turtle appearance in there. And Happiest Season is a movie that's a good Christmas movie that does not follow all the same tropes as every Christmas movie out there, in that it's not very feel good. Even if it is sort of a happy ending, predictable type movie, there are some twists and turns along the way that throw you off. And I really enjoyed it. It's like a gut punch too. It makes you awkward and uncomfortable. Those are the movies that I really like that make you feel sort of real. So we finish up with some Saved by the Bell and with Happiest Season. When I wake up in the morning, my alarm gives out a warning. I don't think I'll ever make it on time. Oh yeah, Saved by the Bell, Bayside High. It is back. They have a new, sort of a reboot. It is new Saved by the Bell episodes on Peacock, which is NBC's streaming service. And what it is the children of some of the major characters from Saved by the Bell that play major roles in this. We'll be doing like a full recap of everything, but I thought it was really fun. It's corny, but what I like with shows like this is it makes fun of itself. It knows what it is. It doesn't take itself too seriously. And it's not all. You get a little bit of Zach, a little bit of Kelly. Mario Lopez is one of the main characters in the show. He is the football coach, the athletic director, and then Jesse is the guidance counselor. So you get a lot more of Elizabeth Berkley and of Mario Lopez, of Jesse and AC, than you do of Zach and Kelly. Zach is the governor of California, and it's funny. I mean, Zach is still kind of stupid Zach, and you have a whole bunch of new kids coming in. Basically what ends up happening is some of the low budget schools get shut down, so they have to bus some kids into Bayside that are from out of the area. So you have kids that are coming in from either inner cities or from families where they don't have a lot of money, and now they're dealing with the kids at Bayside who are loaded. Everything's on iPad. Everyone's filthy rich. They're all hanging out with LeBron and movie stars. So I thought it's a lot of fun. It's a quick watch. It is, like I say, it's corny, it's goofy, but it's not. It doesn't pretend or take itself too seriously, which is just something that I want from a show that's going to be a little bit corny and goofy. I don't know, it's like the Fuller House was bad and a little cornier than this. Like, this is it'll still deal with and some like more real issues in some of the episodes, but I think it's a lot of fun. I really do. And I think 8 episodes or 10 episodes on the streaming, so I'm not going to break down every episode, all 10 episodes on Peacock. I won't be breaking them all down individually or anything like that. I just kind of wanted to give you some overall thoughts on the show, and that, yeah, I thought it's fun. It's worth something to throw on in the background when I was doing my work, and I enjoyed it. I got a kick out of seeing everyone back. You even get a Lisa Turtle cameo at one point where they speak with her via, I think, Zoom. But Saved by the Bell, if you're a Saved by the Bell fan, you'll get a little bit of a nostalgia kick. And it's not like a show where, and I actually like the fact that they didn't try to just make it a show about Zach and Kelly and Slater and Jesse, and that we got them in this show with the new characters. The show is much more about the new students at Bayside. Zach's son, Jesse's son, who are two of the major main characters. And Zach's son is like Zach, playing pranks on everyone, doing tricks. Jesse's son is the big stud athlete, even though he's not really a stud athlete or any good. He's a really nice, kind of good-looking guy. And you have them mixing with the kids coming in from the new schools. So I had a lot of fun with it, but don't expect it to be the greatest thing you're going to ever watch. If you're a Saved by the Bell fan, I think you'll enjoy it. something you can also throw on and watch with the kids there. So I don't mind Saved by the Bell on Peacock streaming on NBC. I'm a big fan of Christmas movies, music, everything. Although I'm not, when it comes to Christmas movies, I like the authentic Christmas movies. I'm not as big on the Hallmark, ABC Family, Christmas movies that they have that are all sort of follow the same template. But there's a new Christmas movie out this year that's called Happiest Season, and it's on Hulu. And I really, really liked it because it is not. There's a lot of the same things you get in a Christmas movie or in just like a rom-com, but it's so different in that it makes you feel sick for a little bit. Like you feel like you just got gut punched. It's not a normal happy-go-lucky, everything's going great, and it's even a little bit unpredictable at points where it doesn't feel like the ending is going to be all warm and fuzzy. Some spoilers I'll talk about in these few minutes. I'm not going to go through the entire movie, but it's a story that could have been good even without the Christmas aspect. It doesn't lean on Christmas as much. It's more a story about the relationship between our two main characters here. And we have Kristen Stewart, who's Abby, and Mackenzie Davis, who's Harper. And they are dating. They are in love, both the lesbian. And Harper has not come out to her family yet. These two have been together for a while. Abby does not know this. She thinks that Harper has told her family, because Harper has in fact said, yeah, I told my family about us last year. So she lied. Her family they don't talk about their politics or anything in general, but they're more of a conservative type family, and the dad in fact is running for office. So Harper doesn't want her family to know yet that she's a lesbian. She has not come out to them, and she has not told them about the woman that she's been living with and in a relationship with for a year now. So the start of this, we have this really cool Christmassy moment with the two of them, and they're getting into Christmas mode, and Kristen Stewart has been someone who's not really liked Christmas, so Harper's kind of having to get her on the Christmas train. And so after this awesome night, Harper invites Abby to come back with her to meet the family, and so Abby is excited. She's actually expecting to propose, not knowing that the family she's going to meet doesn't know anything about their relationship, doesn't even know that her girlfriend is gay. So when they get to the family's house, some of the stuff that Abby has to go through, I mean, just getting kind of pushed in the corner, getting neglected while Harper is running into all of her old friends and ex-boyfriends and having to go along with her dad and talk, politics. And I mean, it's sad for a while, and I felt like I'm openly rooting against Harper. You start openly rooting for Abby to like team up with Harper's ex-girlfriend, who plays a really great role. Aubrey Plaza, Riley. She lets Abby know about a lot of Harper's past that Abby doesn't. In fact, Riley and Harper were really good friends growing up, and they became more than friends. And then when people found out about them, Harper acted like nothing was going on, and that Riley was crazy. So this is something that has been happening for a while. Harper has not been able to ever tell her family who she really is, and she's hurt a lot of people in her life because of that. And so Abby's starting to realize that maybe the woman that she thinks she fell in love with is nothing like the woman that she fell in love with. And to make it, even better, one of the main characters in this show, in this movie, is Dan Levy from Schitt's Creek, who is just hilarious. He's a good friend of Abby, and so he's kind of helping Abby along the way as she's calling him and asking him for advice and telling him what's going on. I like this movie quite a bit because it's just not the same average, corny, happy-go-lucky. Like, it's predictable in some spots, and you can say you probably know where things are going and what what's going to happen. But along the way, there are some twists and turns that feel very real, feel very honest, feel very gritty in a situation that, hey, like, I'm not going to pretend I know what this situation's like. How difficult must it be to go tell your family something that you are already worried about the response, something that's life-changing like this, something that's a big deal, who you really are. The moment felt real in that it felt like, I thought that everybody in this, from an acting standpoint, did a really good job. I've never even been like a huge Kristen Stewart fan, but she came off very likable in here. And what's great is that these are really good actors with a real, like, big budget. It doesn't feel like one of those kind of thrown together Christmas movies. This was a good movie. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I like the movies that are a bit, uncomfortable at times and awkward, as I legitimately over and over thought Abby's got to be done with her. Like, Kristen Stewart cannot continue to stay with this character until the very end, when she finally had to be at her most vulnerable and she finally opened up, and she did feel like that she was changing a little bit. I like this. This is on Hulu. Happiest season on Hulu. Let me know what you think, if you've watched it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me, if I'm right, if I'm dead wrong in the analysis of this movie. And let me know if there are any good other Christmas movies out there that you've been watching. I always like to hear about them. Something maybe in this tone, right? Doesn't have to, like, in that I like, even if it's a newer Christmas movie, I'm just not big into the Hallmarky ones that you can kind of feel are very contrived. So, Happiest season. Check it out on Hulu. That is going to do it for this episode of That's What G Said podcast. So, yeah, I recommend both Saved by the Bell and Happiest Season. Happiest Season, good Christmas movie to watch. Saved by the Bell, throw it on in the background while you're doing some stuff. It's funny. It'll give you some laughs, and you'll enjoy it. We covered a ton of ground on this episode, huh? Alex Regla, NBA, NFL Week 13 with Erik. Big thanks to them for joining. We talked some Sable Duel, Friday Gulfstream and Aqueduct, Saturday Gulfstream and Aqueduct. Alex pulled double duty because he talked All Elite Wrestling with us. Peter Brady talking Mandalorian, and then some Saved by the Bell and some Happiest Season thoughts, just like we like it. Action-packed episodes of That's What G Said with all sorts of different topics for you. Thank you so much for joining us again, folks. Don't forget, subscribe, rate, review, download, share the show around with all your friends. Let them know, hey, this isn't a show like any other. We're going to try to give you as much information about as many different things as possible. And if it's something that I don't know about, I'm going to bring in one of the really good guests that can help out. It's like we did today with Peter talking Mandalorian. So thank you so much, folks. Have a great weekend. And here we go. Joey, take it away.